talk about is the fact that you know that version of him. What you don't know is he runs a proper, multifaceted business enterprise with audited financials, with clean, proper, completely separate operations, a real estate development company that is unbelievable. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We had to come to you. You and Roland Martin inspired me to understand digital marketing, to understand social media. Really, I'm gonna give credit. Roland got me started on social media. You got me educated and refined on digital marketing. Your team is brilliant at it. Your son is brilliant at it. And you have tens of millions of followers and engagements every day. And now Amazon saw that as an opportunity, and you have a channel now.
Yes.
With Amazon?
Yes, I have a freebie channel on Amazon. I'm the first clergy to be offered a free channel on Freevee TV through Amazon that right now it's got 300 of my favorite sermons loaded on it that you can watch whenever you want to, however you want to, and it's absolutely free. Ultimately, we're going to have interviews like this. We're going to have help for emotional crisis. Our nation is still traumatized from what we've been through the last 3 years. Even those of us walking around don't even realize the trauma that we've ingested that comes out in our inability to sleep, our inability to feel safe, our inability to connect with each other has had a terrible toll on us. So this becomes a platform. And the thing I want to say about technology, particularly as it relates to social media and all of the variations thereof, is that you have to realize it's not a magic pill. It'll only work if you work it.
That's right. Like everything else.
Yeah, it'll only work if you work it.
Yeah.
So everybody has it, but then how do you use it for its optimum capacity and to understand and appreciate it? If it is not authentically worked into the heart of the CEO, then it just becomes another thing you have. But when it's something that it becomes legitimately a part of you, so if Roland introduced you to it, then I begin to challenge you to be it, because you cannot have it if you don't be it. I can teach what I know, but I can only reproduce what I am. And are you following what I'm saying? So authenticity means that you have to engage it yourself for it to get into the DNA of your organization.
That's right.
Or it just becomes an accoutrement, an attachment to the overall complexity of your organization. And so what is interesting about it is authenticity brings success.
That's right.
Authenticity, just the weird thing of being yourself. And the funniest thing is the hardest thing in the world to do is to get up in front of people and be yourself, because we all fear rejection. And we sense that if I got up there and I was my authentic self, maybe they wouldn't like me. So we give them a version of us that represents us, but it's not actually us. But the reality is, flaws and all, to be able to stand authentically and say, this is who I am, takes courage, but it also reaps crops, harvests, increase, fruitfulness, cross-pollination, like-mindedness, and collaboration is not based on skin, it's based on thought. So when you start talking about disruptive thinking, you don't just find that in black people or preachers or scientists or doctors. There are people sitting out there listening at me now that may be white, that may be Latino, that may be young, that may be old. It doesn't matter about the demographic. It matters about the mentality. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So they said I was a preacher. And when they said that, I didn't think I was just that. So they put a period where God put a comma.
Whoa, come on now. Come on.
See?
Are you guys hearing this? Are you hearing this?
So I say this for the room because a lot of us are prisoners and inmates behind other people's opinion of how they define us. And so you're busy living up to their period. And you think because you're a journalist, that's all that you are. But you could be a scientist, you could be a doctor, you could be a film producer, you could develop music. There is more in you than what your title implies. And I want you out of jail. I want you in your creative space. I want you to have the courage to disrupt and dismantle systems that have locked you down to the prisons of other people's opinions, and to discover yourself before you run out of time.
Woo! Come on. You about to have some church up in here. I tell people, I will give you some money if I have it. I'll give you a hug. I'll give you a connection. I'll hook you up if I can, if you're credible, and even if you're not credible, if you just have hustle and authenticity. But one thing you will not do, you will not abuse my time.
No.
Because we're older when we leave here. What have you done with your time? How have you invested your time? What's the return on investment of your time? Man, you have made incredible use of your time.
Only because I was raised by a dying father. When you are raised by a dying father, they leave you life. An appreciation for life that you would not have. For my father to get sick when I was 10 and die when I was 16, he didn't get to go to football games with me. He didn't get to teach me how to ride a bicycle. He didn't get to do all the normal stuff he said. He taught me that every breath is precious.
That's it.
Don't waste your breath making the goal of your life to change the opinion of people who do not have anything to do with where you are going in your destiny. Woo! But to save your win. And here I am at a season in my life after 43 years of preaching. I thought this huge platform that you referred to, over 30 million people engaging us through cyberspace, our ability to reach around the world, 186 million homes that we're into now through Amazon. Well, 40 million people are watching us every day on television all across the country and so forth around the world. My largest cities following are coming out of Lagos, Nigeria, London in the UK, then Dallas, then Atlanta, then New York, then Melbourne, then Switzerland. This huge platform that I don't even understand how I got gave me a responsibility. What are you going to do to leverage your relationships, like right here in Atlanta, to acquire property right beside Tyler Perry Studios and build a community that changes things? I figured out something, John, that's very important. I was waiting for them and they. And then suddenly I realized that we are the people we've been waiting.
That's right. That's it.
We are the people.
That's it.
We are the people that we've been waiting on. The ability to pick up the phone and call you and glean from your wisdom, the ability to pick up your phone and call somebody else who's an expert at building or contracting or developing or land acquisition. The ability, don't think that your resources are in your wallet. Your resources are in your head and in your phone. The next time you hear somebody say, shake your moneymaker, shake your head. Woo! Shake your head. Shake your head. Shake your head, because you are only limited by your ears. Whatever you're thinking in your head, you can see in your life. And that's what's important. And that's what we've got to get in the hood. And that's what we've got to get in repressed neighborhoods. And that's what we've got to get into the hearts and minds of people who think that the only thing they can be, and there's nothing wrong with being this, but it's not the only thing that you can be, is a preacher, a rapper, a basketball player, a football player. You can be a scientist. You can be a technician. You can be a programmer. You can be a data programmer. You can code. You can do all kinds of things. So we have been adopting schools schools in repressed areas and taking them through programs, STEM programs, and then taking them to plays like Hamilton. But we brought them to see Hamilton after that they had done marketing, as if they were producing the movie, after they understood what the production was, after they understood how to code for the lighting and the transition and the sound and the programming and the recording. We're getting ready to do a Texpo at my leadership conference.
Texpo.
Yeah, Texpo, yeah. Yes. We create a word. That's the great thing about it. To all the white people, this is a great privilege that only black people have. We can make a word. We have our own dictionary. We make a word. So add that to your repertoire of linguistical articulation. Texpo is now a word. And we're going to have tech talks. Yes. And we're soliciting all of these different tech experts, not only to create an expo, but to have tech talks, because I want to close the digital divide before more of our middle class falls below the poverty line.
That's right.
And we don't have long. We don't have
long. If you don't have technology in the center of your life, and I don't mean watching some show, if you don't have technology in the center of your life, you're not standing still, you're going backwards. I don't care if you're a church, a nonprofit, a for-profit, a big business, small business, technology is the future, and you are trying to gateway us into that future. 3 things that hit me as you were talking. We spend a lot of time trying to impress somebody we don't want to be like.
Boy, that's a shout moment right there. I'm about to pass an offering plate up in here. I'm not sure who the preacher is, okay? I'm feeling a little insecure right now. You kind of hurt my feelings there just a little bit.
I'm feeding off you. And the second thing I'm hitting on is I like what you're doing better than what somebody else is not doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The third thing that I am getting very powerfully now is that eagles don't fly in packs.
Right.
You've never seen a flock of eagles. No one's going to understand you. They're not going to understand your role, your vision. You're going to be ahead of your tribe even. You may even have people in your family say, don't go doing that, baby. It's not good for you. And no, it's not good for them. They don't understand. It's what they don't know that they don't know that's killing them, but they think they know. But that doesn't mean that you don't know. And thank God you went on your path.
Right.
And you took flight like an eagle and stayed high, even though people didn't understand you, and people player hate you because they're jealous of you. And I've seen it myself. And you deal with that with graciousness and love and style. You talk without being offensive, listen without being defensive, leave your adversary their dignity. So you've taken this spiritual awakening of you, this embodiment of you, and now you're trying to not just feed the homeless, you're trying to give them a home. I mean, you are literally, you're not just talking to folks in the criminal justice system, you're trying to show them how to code. You're trying to show them how to become an entrepreneur. As you were talking about...
We shut down 5 prisons in Texas.
Yeah, talk about it.
We have the lowest rate of recidivism of any institution in Texas. We have awards both from the Trump administration and the Obama administration for the excellence of our work that we decided to do. We didn't put our facilities in a glamorous building in a nice neighborhood. We put it right in the hood where people could get to it. And we take them through a 2-year program with a graduation. And most of them come out employed with a place to stay. We have people coming out of prison who have never seen an Apple phone, don't know how to use a phone, looking for a phone booth. They have been incarcerated so long, it is impossible without some training and some preparation to integrate back into society without an investment to accomplish that. The other thing that you have to realize is the reason that we're going down the track of entrepreneurship. The stats say black women are going into business more readily than any other people group, but they do not have sustainability. They have great creativity. They don't have access to capital. They don't have the sustainability that's necessary to be competitive. So what we are doing is taking people and showing them how to build to scale, how to scale your business up, how to prepare for the future, how to integrate your ideas, how to market your ideas. We are talking to people with CEOs through major distributions about getting our products into their store. And so they're starting to carry our products in many of the stores that have not carried our products before, because the reason that we have had to go wholesale and online is because we didn't have access to distribution. The next hurdle we have to make is access to advertising. Yes, we can advertise on social media. Yes, we should do that. That's a great thing to do. That's low-lying fruit. We need to be able to market it, because if I get in Walmart and nobody knows I'm there,
That's right.
then they're going to throw me out in 30 days.
That's right.
And it's going to be impossible for me to have sustainability.
That's right.
So we have to do that. And then to the corporations that are out here, yes, we need your support. Yes, we need you to come alongside of us. Yes, we need your ability to help this dream to materialize more readily. Now, we're going, whether you come or not.
Oh, whoa! That's it.
Because we have decided, there that we can get together.
That's right.
And rub sticks and create a fire.
That's right.
But if you got some matches and some gas, you are welcome to come and gather around the campfire and help us get it going. What we really want from you is information, dedication, some not just green power, but manpower, putting your people on site in different places, loaning us your expertise, being speakers at events like TechPo, so that we can be exposed to those ideologies and concepts that are common to you. Because not all black people grew up in houses where they were talking about investments and annuities and 401ks,
right.
and what's the benefits and the liabilities and what is Dow Jones. And we skip past that because it's a foreign language. It's a foreign language not because we don't understand English. It's a foreign language because we never heard it in our house. So what I'm trying to do is make the foreign language become a natural language that is within our reach, and to demystify. The reason we have so much haters, it's not their fault. It's not their fault to be haters. Success is so mystical to suffering people.
Woo!
That if anybody succeeds, you must be bad.
Yes.
You must be bad. It is a result of the trauma.
The trauma.
Because we are not used to seeing success in our color.
Yes.
Then like crabs in a barrel, we snatch it down because we think that that's only for the master.
Oh.
When your missionaries were your masters, then your theology will always be flawed. Woo! And so when you understand the history of our country and you recognize that there is a complicity in our theology that bled over into our humanity and our human experience, that there are some people who think that they have a God-given right to oppress me because pressing me down makes you feel taller. So the only theory that we can come up with is replacement theory, which produces fear. I don't want to replace anybody. I just want to stand beside you.
That's right.
I don't want to push your chair away from the table. I just want a seat at the table. And if you don't give me a seat, I'm going to build a table.
That's right.
I'm going to build me a table.
That's right.
And you know why? It's not for me. I'm 65 years old. I can make it from here. It's not for me. It's so my son can see me build, so my daughter can see me build, so my neighbor. Do you not know the reason that we're building mixed income communities is that the stats say that little boys who grow up in homes with no father, if they live in a neighborhood where there's a father, the outcomes are better if they're even close to it. The reason we have haters is because people are frustrated.
Yes.
They're trapped at the bottom and they can't get up. The reason we have riots, Dr. King said that riots is the language of the unheard.
That's right.
The reason we have riots is because people are frustrated. Yeah. What we need to do is open up channels where they can escape. They're locked into systems, and the theme of our foundation is pathways. Yes. Because on one hand, we have relationship with CEOs, many of which who say, I want to make a difference. Our company needs to make a difference. We have DEI departments and all of that. We need to make a difference. We are now criticized for not making a difference, and they want to do it, but they don't know those people.
Yes.
Well, I know the CEO and the people. I told one CEO who said, I can't find qualified black people to work in my company and in my organization. I said, they're in my choir stand. I said, no. I'm serious. I got master's degree people singing in the choir, working on the usher board. We do exist. Yes.
Yes.
So what we need is a pathway between supply and demand so that we can introduce these two people to each other, because the stats say the more diverse a corporation, not only is it the moral thing to do, profitability increases by 20% when you integrate the thought with other types of people.
That's right. That's right. Are you enjoying this? Woo! So as I want to come around, we're going to talk about the real estate pieces as we round this off, because I think that is the living legacy. But I want you to know a couple more things about this man. When he calls me, it's never about him. He's never asking for anything for himself, other than maybe to learn something he doesn't know. He's curious. So he called me once and he asked me about some real estate stuff. and we talked about 45 minutes for that. And I didn't realize he was draining me for information, because
he got to be slick with it. Be slick.
My man was going to launch a huge real estate deal. And I loved that he was using whatever resources were available to expand the table, as Stephanie Rules say, and add a chair and build his own table, because he was doing something I couldn't do. And we need it. And then I call him for advice and counsel. And there's a humility, we can learn from each other. And my team goes over to his team to learn about technology and social, because it's not what we do, it's not who we are. There's nothing wrong with asking for help.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with collaboration.
In fact, if you got a vision that you can reach by yourself, it's not worthy of you.
Woo! Say that again.
If you got a vision that you can reach by yourself, it's not worthy of you. One of the problems with our entrepreneurs is that they generally have less than 2 employees, 2 to 3 employees at max.
Yep.
They're so busy doing the work, they're not thinking the business. And running a business is, just because you can fry chicken doesn't mean you need to open up a chicken shack. Okay? The truth of the matter is, I don't have to fry chicken. I can hire somebody to fry chicken. I have to think my business.
Yes.
I have to strategize my business. I have to integrate my business by being at events like this, where I can meet the right people and learn the right concepts to enhance my business. But you know why some people aren't here? They're busy doing the business.
Yes.
They don't understand the difference between busyness and business. So they think that if they are busy enough, they will be successful in business. Back away from what you're doing and stare at it. Woo! Just stare at it. Just stare at who you hired. Stare at how they perform. Stare at your ledgers, your balance sheets, your budgets, your income, what it costs you, not just in dollars, but in human resource.
That's right.
See, what you just told them about us is not only that we are friends, we are resources to each other.
That's right.
Human resource can be the greatest capital you can ever have. And this country right now is having a deficit of human resource. So we have to create workforce possibilities that are more inclusive in order to be sustainable. Our survival is at stake. Our literal survival. I hear on the news them talking about democracy is at stake. It's not just democracy. Survival is at stake. Human survival is at stake. If we don't integrate our ideas, the same air that the Chinese breathe, the Americans breathe. The same water that the Africans drink, the Canadians drink. We have one planet. Yes. And while we are having all of these tribal wars, whether they're political tribal wars, whether they're socioeconomic tribal wars, whether they're good hair, bad hair, tribal wars, we have all these generational tribal wars. We're about to be extinct.
Yes.
And if we don't come together as a species,
bridging the divide,
and come together, bridge the divide, and recognize the fact that there is really one race, the human race.
That's right.
Then, like many other species that are facing extinction on the planet that we are not paying attention to, because we arrogantly believe that we could not become extinct, COVID came to remind us that one disease could come through and take us all out, and they'd be digging for our bones and talking about the species that used to exist.
Yes.
What happened is we're being forced to lose our biases and our prejudices and integrate our philosophies and benefit from our human resources.
Yes.
And let me tell you something, this is a God idea, it's not a Jake's idea. Cross-pollination. I was just watching on the news that the death of the bees is killing the harvest of the farmers. You know why? Because God has created this earth, or I believe that God created this earth in such a way that cross-pollination is the path to fruitfulness. If you don't cross-pollinate, the nectar doesn't have to come from the same tree. But if you draw the pollen from one tree and bring it to the next and produce the nectar, it makes everybody more fruitful. The higher you go, the more fruitful I become. I could never be your hater. I could be your student, but I could never be your hater because I would miss the opportunity to cross-pollinate with you. I would rather have your knowledge. I met with Jerry Jones when I first came down to Dallas, and I told him, I said, I didn't come to ask you for anything. I said, I just want to know, what would you do if you had my hand? If you give me money, you're going to give it to me once, but if you give me knowledge, I can get my own.
That's right.
You understand? Give me knowledge. Knowledge is everything.
So as I don't want to conclude, but as we wrap this session up, what you have now poured all of this into things that exist when you're not around. But you don't need to do any of this. Ambassador Andrew Young says men and women fail for three reasons: arrogance, pride, and greed. You don't have any of those afflictions. You're peace, and you're at peace with yourself. And you could just walk off the stage right now, drop the mic, and be cool. But now you're trying to give back in another dimension of yourself, a software upgrade through business and because you see the ripple effect of that through our conversations. So I see a real estate development you're doing, I think, in Houston. I think I see another development. I forget the state. There's another development on Thursday. I see one that you and Tyler Perry got together and not talked about entertainment or this or that, which is another conversation. You talked about a real estate development, and you bought land here in Atlanta, a former military outpost, as I understand.
Fort Mac.
Fort Myers?
Fort Mac.
Fort Mac.
Yeah, and I couldn't have done it. We didn't form a partnership. He had a ROFO, which is a right of first offer, which meant that nobody could buy the land without it first being offered to him. I got on the phone and called him and said, if you give me the ROFO for a certain amount of time and I don't make it happen, I'll give it back to you. Gentleman's agreement. Signed no contracts. We just made a deal.
Yeah.
So, you understand what I'm saying? So it's not like Tyler Perry Studios and I are in partnership.
Right.
TDJ Rev, on its own accord, took that last 100 acres or nearly 100 acres of land, and guess what? The neighborhood behind it is stuck in between Tyler Perry Studios and Microsoft, and I can't find a grocery store for miles.
Yes.
I can't find a cup of coffee for miles.
Yes.
I can find free payday loans, payday loan places.
Yeah, cash, rent-to-own stores, title lenders.
Yes, they target the impoverished for the desperation they have to have money. And so you can get liquor stores, you can get a bag of dope, you can get a strip club, you can get a whole lot of stuff, but you cannot get a cup of coffee. So we are putting in grocery stores, we are putting in CVS's, affordable housing, minority contractors. These things all exist, but they had not been gathered together. And we're going to do it in as many cities as we can. And why are we doing it at 65? Because I want to leave this world better than I found it. And I think all of us ought to want to leave this world a little better than I found it. And if you do that, you can't be so preoccupied with your own success that you don't lift up others, because it is impossible to be successful without a successor. So if you are successful and you have no successor, I have never seen a U-Haul fall in a hearse. If a hearse is driving, there's no U-Haul behind it. So you've got to understand that you have to leave this with somebody. It has to, in biblical language, reproduce after its own kind. So the cross-pollination between us, between Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, anybody else out there in the audience right now, create platforms for us to cross-pollinate. God meant for us to be interdependent, yes, not independent, interdependent, like nature, like apple trees, like blossoms, like peach trees. We need each other. It's going to take all of us to preserve the air, the air. Be rich all you want to. What you gonna do if you can't drink the water?
That's right.
Ride around in your Rolls Royce all you like, but if you can't breathe, argue about all of the social issues of the day, but if we all asphyxiate, what difference does it make? We have got to become more focused on our survival as a species and work together, black, brown, and white, so we can live, so that we can grow, so that we can reproduce, and so that we can have not communism, not socialism, but so that we can have a chance, opportunism, and opportunity at a better life. All we need is an opportunity.
The third reconstruction, opportunity. Let me tell you something. What you need is a software upgrade in our communities that looks like this. Integrity, intelligence, caring in capitalism. We can do well and do good too. This is the James Brown version of affirmative action. Open the door, I'll get it myself. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the future of our communities. I can't tell you how excited I am when I get a call from a CEO and they say, I'm about to do a deal with TD Jakes. Because all that means that we are better together, that we have another saint on the playing field of life experiences that will have a ripple effect beyond his years, because he's not about me, he's about we. Yeah. Join me in saying thank you to Bishop TD Jakes.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you.
Today, we celebrate all Operation Hope's hard work to disrupt poverty and empower inclusion for low and moderate income youth and adults. NASDAQ is honored to share today's bell with each of you. And now, please join me in welcoming your founder, chairman, and CEO, John Hope Bryant, to the podium for further remarks.
Thank you very much. You know, Ambassador Andrew Young, who's our global spokesman, who was on the balcony with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. April 4th, 1968, when he was assassinated. Dr. King said, we're here to redeem the soul of America from the triple evils of war, racism, and poverty. And to come here to NASDAQ, where the future of companies and free enterprises reign, and to have now this and the 30th anniversary end up here with the bell ringing and the call for a movement, me and Doug McMillan, the CEO of Walmart, for financial literacy for all.
Please welcome to the stage award-winning journalist and evening anchor for WSB-TV, Karen Greer.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. How about that for a start to your morning, huh? Wow, I wrote down every note I could write down until I just couldn't write anymore. Bishop T.D. Jakes getting us ready for why we are here this final day of the big day 3 of the Hope Global Forum. Give yourselves a round of applause. This is amazing. In 2020, Operation Hope launched a bold 10-year initiative for financial literacy for everyone. Co-chaired by Walmart CEO Doug McMillon, a number of high-profile CEOs and organizations joined up right out of the gate, a number that has actually grown to over 50 of the most influential organizations, not in the state, not in the U.S., but in the world. So we're very fortunate. This is something, I don't know where you can go that you can experience something like this, be this close, up close and personal with these CEOs. But right now, you're about to have some of the founding members with us today to tell us just why financial literacy is so important for all of America's future and how you can help be a part of this. So are you ready for this? Welcome to the stage, and we want you to welcome them. It's morning. Come on. Let's show us what you got. Show in Atlanta. Welcome to the president and CEO of PayPal, Dan Schulman. I know you all use PayPal. The executive chair and co-founder of Ares Management and principal owner of the Atlanta Hawks, Tony Ressler. The president and CEO of Walmart, Doug McMillon. And Operation Hope CEO John Hope Bryant. Enjoy.
So I've done this twice this last 3 days, but this was not my doing this time. Bishop T.D. Jakes and I in the back, really him, raised his hand on my three friends here to my right and said, "We now, by the authority vested in the universe, proclaim you three honorary black men."
I've been called worse.
But not much better. I don't know if you get this. This is unprecedented. That gentleman there is the CEO of one of the most important payment systems in the world, PayPal. He, Dan, and I had a conversation where he was going to donate. He was so upset about George Floyd and what happened, he was going to donate $50 million of personal wealth. And I said, don't do that, because if you do that and you unfortunately pass away tomorrow, now you got people hooked on your philanthropy, and you may not be followed by a CEO after you at PayPal who gives a dang. And now we have an expectation that's going to be met with a letdown. Why don't you figure out a way to bake this in your business? I walked away. I hear within 6 months, he's announced a $500 million initiative at PayPal to reinvest in communities, reinvest in his employees, reinvest in black business. $500 million. And then he got upset with me when he heard that Doug and I were launching with Tony Ressler, Financial Literacy for All, and said, "Why didn't you ask me to be part of the founding group? You must backdate the documents to make me part of the founding group." I like that kind of energy. And actually, as I look at you, Dan, as tan as you are, you actually might pass for black, actually. And those cowboy boots is a whole nother situation. Yeah. And next to Dan, he hates when I say this, but I don't care. The 275th wealthiest man in the world.
That's not too shabby.
Up from nothing. Nobody gave him a spoon. Nobody gave him a trust fund. Nobody hooked him up. This man, someone was in the water in the Ressler household because him and his brother just came out the blocks in two different directions and killed it. This man has built Apollo and built Ares Management, which I think is now approaching $400 billion in assets under management, owns the Atlanta Hawks, principal owner of the Atlanta Hawks, has an interest in an F1 team, baseball team, all that. But most notably, when no one's watching, his obsession is building black businesses. Tony Ressler. Full transparency, when I had a vision for a business, and I know a lot of people, there's only one person I talk to, or two, Michael Arrighetti and Tony Ressler. And the guy who backed my business, I'm glad to say I paid him off. I love that, I paid him off. The guy who backed my business was Tony Ressler. The guy who helped Killer Mike when he needed it was Tony Ressler. The guy who helped, there's a lot of people you see visibly. You don't realize behind that is somebody else providing support. Not a handout, a hand. And he and his brother are now made the largest investment in Atlanta since Atlanta. It's called Centennial Yards, $6 billion, right across from Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where 30 to 40% of all vendors will be a minority and women by written agreement with the city and the state. That's the kind of man you have sitting in front of you there. And probably the most powerful quiet storm I know in my life is Doug McMillon. Doug doesn't scream, he doesn't holler. He may look to you dressed down. I mean, there's probably some Walmart clothes he's got on there. I'm feeling it.
I didn't get the note on the shoes, though.
It's okay, you got the note on the wealth. Doug McMillon is the CEO, I'm gonna say this slowly. He's the CEO of the #1 Fortune 500 company in the world, Walmart. Came up through the system. Weren't you like a
Started out in a warehouse unloading trucks.
Did you hear that?
Pretty amazing.
Loading trucks. I'm sure he was dismissed. I'm sure that he was discarded. I'm sure that people were disrespected him who now report to him. Always gracious, humble, and approachable. And I knew I liked you from the first day we met. And one day, it was around Christmas 2 years ago, I believe, Shasha and I were on a retreat, and I had a vision. I had an idea, and I called Doug. I texted him. I said, can I talk to you? He said, sure. No secretaries, no scheduling out 3 months, no protocol. Can I talk to you? Sure. He called me. This is now basically Christmas. He's people with their families. He calls me. What's up? I said, I've got this idea. I think financial literacy should be the civil rights issue of this generation. I waited for the response or the click. He said, I agree. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? I said, I didn't have an answer to that. I don't know, Doug. I just called you with this idea. And he said, well, we need to do something about it. How do we operationalize this? Well, we should put together an initiative, maybe a coalition of the willing. And by the way, this idea of financial literacy also, by the way, came from Tony Ressler and another friend of mine, Andrew Ross Sorkin, who's on Squawk Box, who told me years ago that we needed to make this a centerpiece of everything we do. So I called Doug, and Doug said, well, hold on. We need to get a creative company. So he called Disney. I'm sorry, while we're sitting there, I'm on the phone with him. He's texting, yes. Then he says, well, hold on, we need a banker. So then he texts the CEO of Bank of America, Brian. Brian says, yes. I text Tony Ressler. I said, Tony, I need you to say yes. He's got 2 yeses. Tony's like, I don't know what you're calling me about, but sure, yes. Yes, Dan, in my mind, I texted you, yes. But I'd already asked you for some other stuff, by the way. And within 15 minutes, we had a coalition. And then about a week later, Doug said, you know, we get this thing bogged down with our teams. It's going to take 6, 12 months or more to get this thing done. He said, why don't we just draft up a press release and issue it? And I said, okay, who's going to draft it? He said, I'll draft it. So he went, he's the CEO of Walmart. He goes to his little iPad. He drafts up a press release we're going to launch financial literacy for all these CEOs. It's going to launch on whatever it was, like a week before. He said, we're going to call these CEOs, get them to say yes, give them a day to say yes to the press release so they can't think about it too long. And then we're going to issue it. And then everybody's committed. That's what happened. He dropped the press release. And now we have 50 of the Fortune 200 CEOs in America in a year committed to financial literacy for all. This NBA commissioner, the NFL commissioner, the head of Wells Fargo, the head of Bank of America, the head of Nestle, this list is unbelievable. Yes, the head of PayPal. And it's growing and pulsating. And our commitment now is we want CEOs to treat this like healthcare was 40 years ago. We want to embed this into the business plan of every corporation in America. We want them to do it for 10 years, resource it appropriately, make it part of their culture, and take it seriously. We're not prescriptive. We're not telling you how to do it. And again, I learned this from Doug. Don't micromanage these CEOs. They're good at achievement. And our goal is to do that and also to get some public policy so that by the time your kids grow up, that financial literacy is in schools, K through college, as a requirement so that everybody learns the language of money. This is the backstory you never hear. Will you join me in saying thank you to this group of people? So, Doug, you understand Up From Nothing. It's your story. You understand, you're running Walmart. It's like running the biggest, it's like running a country. It's 2 million employees almost. How many customers?
In the U.S., 160 million a week.
It's crazy.
Can you run that for me one more time? You see how cool he was about that? No screaming, no hollering. You got to hit the whisper. Repeat that.
160 million a week.
Woo! And how many around the world?
240.
240 what?
240 million a week around the world.
I think the biggest mistake we made, my mother made some handicraft. And when I was coming up, my sister tells me that she had a chance, Walmart asked her, made an offer to put her product in a Walmart store, and they only offered her like 2 pennies on each sale, and she turned her nose up on it. We could be loaded. Mom, where are you? What were you thinking?
Still time. Still time.
Still time. So you are, I want to get into some of the stuff you're doing to operationalize opportunity, all of you within your respective enterprises. But when you think about this issue, how does it relate to, financial literacy, does that relate to Walmart and its businesses? In what way? What's the connection?
Yeah, let me start with just saying that I think, John, you represent the most important voice in the country on this issue. And this is of strategic significance to our country, and I appreciate the role that you play in that process.
Yeah.
You are
hard to hear.
You're educating people, and you're relentless, and I admire that about you. In terms of our responsibility, we've got 2.3 million associates around the world, and we start out thinking about what do they make? What's their pay? I started at $6.50 an hour. Our wages have been going up. We want to keep raising our wages. That's foundational. Secondarily, what kind of cash bonus do they get? Many of our jobs pay a cash bonus. Then what does healthcare look like? Then there's a 401k. Then there's a share repurchase plan. Then there's Live Better You, where we pay for education for people to get a college degree, and 75,000 people have enrolled, 11,000 people have graduated so far. So there's a whole system of things, but our associates frequently don't even know about them. They're coming to work, they're doing their job, they're going home. For whatever reason, our communication is not working as well as we would like for it to work. And at the end of the day, what we want is to create opportunity. Bishop Jakes was talking about give us an opportunity. 75% of our management team started as hourly. The guy that leads our Walmart U.S. business now, John Ferner, started out working in lawn and garden. The guy that leads all of our stores, Dakota Smith, started assembling bikes. It's opportunity. So it's not where you start, it's where you finish and how you go through the system. But as you go, you need to save some money. You need to understand what interest rates do to savings. You need to understand what the tools are. You need to know the rules of the game.
Yeah.
And so we want to invest all this money in our folks, but we want them to do well, have a retirement that is something worth looking forward to. And so this is really important to us. And what happened when you and I got engaged is what happened, I think, with a lot of these CEOs is we said, yeah, we have a program where we teach financial education and wellness, but it's just one thing that we do out of so many, and we're not as effective. So we have dialed it up since you and I started spending time together, and I think that's what Financial Literacy for All has done, is now you've got all these leaders that are accountable for making sure that not only do you have the right tools, but you also are communicating effectively and getting more people to use them.
And you and I have committed, well, really, you inspired me to say we should try to get 80% of the Fortune 500 involved with this in the next couple of years, committed to it. So the goal that he set, and now that we set as co-chairs, is very, very high. And we hope to do with this what really Dan Schulman inspired after George Floyd's murder, with, I think, the $62 billion in corporate commitments was in large part inspired by the Dan Schulmans of the world who made early commitments, and Ed Bastian, who was here yesterday, and other CEO role models who are showing that you can have social justice through an economic lens. And even inside your company, you're showing that financial literacy can lead to other things. I'm sorry, this whole issue of financial competency and economic opportunity is broad-based, is what I meant to say, like what you did with Roz Brewer. Mm-hmm. So tell the audience, it may not be obvious, where did Roz start at, where did she go, and where's she at now?
Roz is an engineer by training, chemical engineer by training, and she was part of our company, worked in our Walmart U.S. business, got promoted to lead Sam's Club, and she's currently the CEO of Walgreens. I think there's something like 25 to 30 current CEOs that came through Walmart with part of their career, which is great. We've got big jobs, and people learn a lot, and then they go on to do other things, and so it forms a bit of a community where we can help each other.
But what he didn't tell you is that Roz Brewer is a sister. There's a powerful black woman who had all the talent in the world, but if it wasn't for a fair-minded person who used to stock shelves, who saw somebody with talent and gave them a shot, then the doors wouldn't be open. This is the same thing with the T.D. Jakes and I were talking about. We need the James Brown version of affirmative action. Open the door, I'll get it myself. But we need somebody to open the door. You have been a door opener for so many people, and I want to thank you for your kind of leadership. And now on this topic. Tony, why did you think this issue was so important? Why'd you keep nailing me on it and hammering me to focus on this? You focus on your players at the Hawks to focus on not just making money, but building wealth, and to use these contracts, these once-in-a-lifetime contracts, to actually have wealth, sustainable wealth-creating opportunities. You almost get angry, about waste of these opportunities. It seems to be in your bones. Why did you press me so much? Why is this issue so important to you?
Well, again, having the private sector lead by example, I will say just a statement of the obvious. If you do want to create a remarkable organization, you do want the Fortune 50 or the Fortune 100 to say yes, I would urge you to have Doug McMillon and John Bryant call the CEOs of these various institutions, which is a pretty remarkable response in itself. But please understand, if you want to create wealth in this country, or you want to even the playing field, if you think about it, take a step back. You want to find a good job, you want to buy a home, or you want to build a business. Any of those endeavors requires basic financial literacy. And the vast majority of kids coming out of high school don't have it. So the ability for the private sector to lead by example, to highlight the importance of financial literacy, to actually institute methods by which people can create access, really for free, basic financial literacy, is, as Bishop Jake said, it can be transformational, not just inspirational. And to me, that is so important for people that can, to have that kind of influence. And yes, do you get frustrated? Again, I don't want to use individual examples, but whether you're making $25,000 a year, or as we see in a whole lot of parts of the world, $25 million a year in certain sports businesses or entertainment businesses. These are people with extraordinary access to wealth, extraordinary wealth, but not with basic financial literacy. And the folks sometimes, and I would argue in the professional sports business, they don't just make very, very good incomes, which they do, of course, but they should be positioned to be the business leaders, if you will, or moguls of their communities when they're done playing. And with basic financial literacy, that happens. So I don't get angry. I just find it a bit of an obsession for me, which is for things that people can actually impact. I think the private sector, with something along the lines of financial literacy for all, can really have this enormous impact and should. And to me, that's the private sector leading by example. And I couldn't be more proud to be part of it.
What was in the water at the Wrestler house? You and Richard, you know, yes, you're simpatico, but you went in two different directions. Both of you are now these outsized success. Was financial literacy part of the formula that was in the water in the Wrestler household? Did somebody teach you about how money worked? Was somebody reading the Wall Street Journal? I mean, where'd that understanding of how markets and money come from?
I don't have a good answer. There was no, I didn't grow up the way I live. I just thought, and frankly, growing up, I did think anything was possible. But I had no financial background. I had no basic financial literacy at the time. But I did have access to a decent public education. And for that, I thought anything was possible. But again, to what helped me create success, I have no idea. You know, it's sometimes being lucky, sometimes being in the right place at the right time. But I do know the position I'm in now and the ability to help, if you will, level the playing field for most. Maybe it's not possible for all, but it is possible for most. And we've got to do something. And it's not, maybe it's a whole bunch of things, actually. But I really do believe financial literacy, accessing financial literacy, is one of those core foundations that can change that playing field.
So I know something similar about all three of your stories. All three of you came from very humble beginnings. No one gave you anything other than you had the privilege of having a different hue than I have, which you all have acknowledged is an advantage. But you do understand what it's like to not have that credibility and that moniker that just gives you success. So I think that's part of the reason why you care so much for others. Dan, I met your mother. Your mother in the 1960s refused to buy a house that had a covenant in it restricting ownership from a black. Your mother was a civil rights advocate. You were on the March on Washington as a child, looking at Andrew Young and Dr. King. These are things that people don't know about your story that I think root you in some fundamental values. Why do you care so much? And why did you take, what happened in the chemistry in your head when we had that conversation? Clearly it was your doing. You went on with friends and others and created this program that actually has sustainable legs. How does it relate to financial literacy for all? And what's the result so far?
Well, just one quick thing. John, I want to thank you for your friendship and all your support as well. And your advice and counsel has helped shape kind of the policies that we've had at PayPal. So thank you for that. You know, my mom was a civil rights activist. My dad was worried I'd be the youngest kid to have his picture in an FBI file. So he really did not like me being pushed in my carriage at all these civil rights marches. But one thing, you know, that my parents taught me, and it's kind of upstream, I think, to financial literacy, is so many people in our country struggle. They struggle to make ends meet. It's actually unbelievable. It's 70% of adults in the U.S. struggle to pay their bills at the end of the month. They're juggling. What do? Do they put food on the table? What bills do they pay? Do they get health care benefits or not? It's a real massive issue in our country. People are financially stressed. They leave their jobs. There's absenteeism. They radicalize because they don't think that the system is working for them. And so, you know, my view on this is that as great a system as we have in our country, capitalism, it doesn't work for all parts of the population. There's so many people being left behind.
Yep.
And so you can't really depend on the market to figure out, like, are people being paid a fair wage or not? Doug has been a leader in this. Tony talked about this, but, you know, I did a survey of our employees because I thought, well, PayPal, we're a tech company. We pay at or above market for all of our employees, that they would not be financially stressed. And what I found is that over 50% of our employees had only between 4 and 6% of their income available to them after they paid their taxes and essential living expenses. So they were stressed, and we put in place a whole program to take that 4 to 6% up to at least 18 to 20% of their net disposable income. We increased their salaries. We decreased the cost of health care by 65% for that employee base.
65%? Wow.
And we gave everybody in the company equity in the company. We gave them all stock, every single person. So, and then we wrapped it all in a financial education program, to your point about financial literacy, because this is the first time people actually had savings. It's the first time they had equity. It's the first time that they could actually figure out what kind of benefit package they wanted for their family. First time they could avail themselves of 401k plans. And so the financial education part of this was crucial. And what we found, even though it costs us hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to put this in place, different than the 500 million.
On top of
it, is what we found is that attrition dropped by something like 60%. Our training costs went way down because we weren't replacing people. People weren't stressed at the job, so their engagement scores went up. Our customer satisfaction scores went up. And for me, this investment in our people was as important, probably well more important than any investment we could make in marketing or R&D, because the most important asset that we manage up here is our employees.
Yeah.
It is the most important asset we have.
Well, and Dan, you're making a point that I want to make sure everybody gets here in this audience. These folks here are not talking about charity. They're talking about enlightened self-interest. They're good people. But correct me if I'm wrong, you need your employees and your customers and your communities to be financially literate in order to have sustained success.
Yes, true.
True?
No doubt.
True?
Completely obvious.
Well, it's not obvious if you're a predator. So if the old model is you have a check casher next to a payday loan lender, next to a rent-to-own store, next to a title lender, next to a pawn shop, that's preying on a 500 credit score neighborhood, whether it's black and brown, urban or white, rural. That model, in my opinion, should die. And we found, go ahead, Dan.
It's ridiculous.
It's a conversation, go ahead.
It's ridiculous to think that corporations are an island unto themselves. We operate in our communities. Our employees are part of our communities. We operate in a bigger economy. If it isn't working for everybody, that sub-optimizes business as well. This whole idea of profit and purpose being at odds with each other is ridiculous.
That's it.
Right? They actually work hand in hand with each other. If we have a purpose, if we are satisfying multiple constituencies, our businesses are stronger as a result. And so this idea of people coming after companies because they have purpose or they have a sense of values about them, it's ridiculous. That is suboptimal.
So to build on that, it's actually statistically true that companies that are more diverse and inclusive are more profitable.
Yep.
It's also true that regions of the country that are more diverse are more profitable. Atlanta is the biggest economy in the South, the only international city in the South, and the 10th largest economy in the country. It's also the most diverse place in the South. And wherever you find diversity and inclusion in a business or an enterprise, it's actually good business. You can do well and do good at the same time. That's what I hear you saying.
It's the only way to do it over time.
The only way to do it.
Only way to do it over time, and we are trying to build things that last beyond us and last for generations. Walmart's 60 years old, and we would like to be here in another 60 years and beyond. And the only way to do that is if it is a participative, inclusive process where everybody can win. So we're systems designers trying to figure out how do you put all the pieces in place so that everyone has the opportunity so this thing lasts forever and everybody benefits. And that is a perpetual, ongoing, terrific challenge to try and solve.
Yes, and this has to be, Doug, this has to be, yes, black and brown urban, yes, but it also has to be poor white rural because they're dealing with the exact same issue. A 500 credit score neighborhood is where all your murders, all your drug issues, your depression issues, your single parent households, your lower education levels. By the way, somebody living in a 500 credit score neighborhood lives to 61. Somebody in a 700 credit score neighborhood lives to 81. This is nationwide. You get 20 more years of life because of your zip code and your credit score. I think nothing changes your life more than God or love, possibly, than moving your credit score 120 points. If you can move a credit score from 500 to 710, not only do you stabilize the community, you create GDP, you keep optimistic people, you create two-parent households, people become obsessed with hustle and opportunity and create something happens to the endorphins in their head. That's our community credit score index that we created that's mapped every community out by zip code and credit score. And as I look now at how you guys are running your business, the reason I said to you, Dan, you can't just make this contribution was because it would be episodic. You make the contribution, then you leave or whatever it happens, and the next guy or woman that comes in, they're not going to do, here's $50 million of my own money. That's just not happening.
But as Doug is saying, as Dan has said, this is both good business and good for the community.
Yes.
They actually work together. I mean, at the Atlanta Hawks, I'm just saying, it's a community asset. You own a professional sports team, that's a community asset. But it just so happens we were in the middle of COVID, we had an empty arena, and we had real problems in this city about the ability to vote. And for certain parts of this city, it was taking 3- and 4-hour waits for people to cast their vote.
Yeah.
That's bad. That's bad for America. That's bad for the city of Atlanta.
That's right.
And I must say, we offered 350 of our full-time employees to be full-time helpers in the vote, in the election process. We reduced that 3-hour wait to 20 minutes. But I'm sorry, I'm not trying to brag. I'm saying that our employee base was thrilled to do it. We didn't have a single employee reject. They were working 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. for 3 weeks prior to the election. Yeah. They weren't forced to do that.
Yeah.
They weren't paid to do that. They were already being paid.
Right.
But that was additional time on their part. All I'm saying is that's good business. And it helped our business enormously by being a better member of the community.
Yep.
That's just an example. And I assure you, Walmart being a good member of the community, PayPal being a good member of the community is both good business and I would hope the future of our private sector. That's something that the U.S. will benefit from and is starting to. And the simple answer is, how do we make it more common?
And embed it. That's why you three are on the stages. I think you're role models for other corporate leaders. I think I want to leave with recommendations or advice you have for corporate leaders, business leaders. But before we get that, we've had these powerful examples, Dan, from you and you also, Tony, about how you're operationalizing this beyond just a concept of financial literacy to inclusion and how that's good for your business. And again, Doug, it's not enough to say, well, I was a box boy, I made it. You have done things to embed this. You have increased the wage level. You have given the opportunity for education paid for by Walmart, as I understand it. Is that right?
Correct.
I see this as the same narrative. This is a couple of things that I'm saying. You're trying to embed this. So Walmart's a good place to work, not to survive, but to actually thrive. And what you've done is, what we've done with Financial Literacy for All, I've been told, is inspired Truist CEO to give every one of their employees financial literacy plus a $750 check for a savings account. Ed just announced it yesterday that January he's going to do $1,000 for every employee who goes through financial literacy at Delta nationwide for his 90,000 employees. How does this operationalize for you at Walmart? Give us a quick sense of what you're doing there.
Yeah, well, I think education is one component, but the other one's tools.
Yeah.
So we found a product called Even, where associates can basically pull forward their compensation if they need to. So they don't have to borrow money, and they've had, since we put the program in place in 2018, hundreds of millions of dollars of savings that didn't go to bank fees that our associates have been able to keep. That same tool helps them be able to save money and put over $300 million aside for savings since we put that in place in 2018. So it's got to be done in a way that
Is that what you just said now? How many
our associates since 2018 have put away $300 million in savings because they've got a simple tool that their paycheck goes into that they can say, I want to set a little bit aside. You were talking earlier about, why we are the way we are. In my case, my dad burned into my head as a dentist and a small business owner, because that's what my mom and dad did, save 10%. I don't care if you're making $10 an hour or $6.50 an hour, I want you to pay your taxes, put 10% aside.
Yep.
And my grandfather talked to me about time value money and compound interest.
Yep.
But a lot of people don't understand that regardless of how much you make, you can be a Walmart truck driver making $110,000 a year and still not manage your money well.
Wait, repeat what you just said?
A
You
truck
be
driver
Walmart truck driver and do what?
Make $110,000 a year.
Somebody need to put your suit up and go find some overalls. $110,000 a year?
But regardless of how much you make, you can still mess it up if you don't understand how to do it, and it's not put into like your fingertips to make it easy. So again, back to design, we're trying to make it easy for people to understand and to save a little bit or save a lot so that over time you end up with comfort and you don't have all this stress. Financial stress for families is a big deal. It creates divorce. It creates all this other pain. And that's why this is such a foundational issue.
And that's not good for business. Stress.
It's not good for
turnover.
retention.
Yeah.
If you don't have a happy associate, you don't have a happy customer. It all works together.
Corporate America could be part of the problem, or it could lead to many of the solutions.
That's right. And just like in the 1960s, where it was businesses that integrated the South. I don't know if you know that. It was not government. Government was standing in the hallway saying, over my dead body, will you integrate, will you come into school? It was actually Andrew Young, sent by Dr. King, quietly to talk to 100 business leaders in every little town and ask them to take down the whites only sign. And they did it because it was bad for business. Because the customer was black, yes, but the color of the currency was green. And they weren't going in the stores anymore. And so they took down the whites only signs at Woolworths and JCPenney and all those stores, and that's how the South. And then they went to the mayor, and the business leaders went to the mayor and told them to knock it off in the little town, and that's how the South got integrated. That was stopping a negative. What I see, what you guys are trying to do, is to start a positive, at scale, embedded into the business plan of America. Each one of you, as a close, what advice do you have to the CEO that's watching this, the leader that's watching this, the C-suite, of how you can do well and do good too?
Go ahead, Doug.
I would just say you have to be personally involved. This is one of those issues that if leaders are not seeking to understand, looking at kind of the detail of how this all works, nothing will happen. And in bigger companies, if you take your eye off of it, it drifts down and something else gets everyone's attention. So my advice would be get personally involved and stay involved.
And by the way, each one of these gentlemen do that because we're emailing, texting. Yes, Julie, you're on your team, and all the other team members, I want to give them, we can't do anything with our teams. But Doug is personally sending notes and personally making phone calls. All three of these gentlemen do that same thing. Tony?
Well, I generally just would agree with whatever the head of Walmart would say, actually. I would say this, which you got to be careful, but it's back to your earlier point. I actually believe every CEO in America should have a plan, and preferably a 10-year plan.
That's right.
On how to have a more financially competent workforce, which is good for their workforce long-term and short-term for that matter, and how to become more diverse, again, with a 10-year plan to do it properly, because it's both good for the community, good for the country, but good for the business.
Yeah, I got my 10-year idea from you, by the way. Dan?
Well, I just don't think that we as CEOs can leave all the problems of our society to the public sector to fix. We have a huge amount of resource. I think we have a obligation, maybe even a moral obligation, to address the issues in front of us. And I think we need to encourage each other to stand up. I think we need to measure what's really happening. And then each of us can figure out that game plan. But we all need to take action, and it's our responsibility to do that.
So, Dan, what I hear you saying, what I hear all you saying is, for all you watching online, we're not trying to make CEOs social engineers of the universe. That's not what's going on here. That's not their job. But what we are saying is, there's something they can do. If you can help people to vote, why wouldn't you want to do that? If you can help people get better health care, why wouldn't you do that? If you can lower their financial stress, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do things that are good for community, good for customers, good for workers, which are good for you? It's just enlightened self-interest. It makes perfect sense. And we need to knock off this ridiculous conversation that somehow you're penalized because you care and you have character. Please join me in thank you to 3 CEOs who care and who have character.
Thank you, brother.
Tony?
But wait, don't leave yet. We've got a very special surprise for you as we celebrate 30 years. Check out the video.
We're here at Operation Hope in Atlanta to surprise Coach Yahara today. She's been doing such great work around the Atlanta community, and we want to surprise her with some goodies. Coach Yahara, how you doing? Nice to meet you. I'm Youngwei Koo, kicker for the Atlanta Falcons. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
You're doing such amazing things around the community, so we just wanted to recognize that and just come surprise you and celebrate you. So,
surprise. Oh, thank you so much. Can you sign it?
Of course.
Oh, this is awesome.
And I've got one more surprise for everyone at the Hope Global Forum.
And you thought you would just see him on the video. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Atlanta Falcons Pro Bowler, Young Ho Koo, and some friends. Yolan Matthew from Truist and Travis Manning also from Truist. And look at this cake.
Yolan Matthew, Truist.
Bravo.
Let's hear it. Can you do more than that? Woo. Woo.
That's cute.
All right, 30 years.
What do I do with it? Do we eat it or?
We just have a couple of things, Koo. We're just really excited on behalf of Truist, John. Allison was here yesterday, and we could not miss the moment to celebrate you and all the great work that you're doing for the communities. We appreciate your partnership, and we appreciate your heart leadership, which is really important. So we brought Koo here. So what better way to celebrate 30th with a cake and a Falcons player?
Well, I just want to say I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm here on behalf of Truist and NFL to recognize all the amazing work that Operation Hope is doing. And I had an opportunity to surprise Coach Yaya, as we saw in the video. I was just really glad to be a part of the amazing day of kind of recognizing all the work, all the amazing work that's been done and that's been doing throughout the community of Atlanta. And just glad to be a part of it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And the NFL is part of financial literacy for all. The NFL Commissioner, Roger Goodell.
Love that.
And John, we're recognizing additional coaches across the footprint as well, so we're really excited about that. But I think you have more surprise.
We do have some surprises. We have a couple signed jerseys. I think they have put...
We have purple. So this is the Oprah moment. If you're sitting underneath your chairs, look underneath your chairs. You have a purple decoration. There might be something that autographed them cool. So you can just yell out a little bit.
Look under your chairs.
I feel like this is Steve Harvey show.
What about us on the stage.
On the stage.
What do we get?
Everybody got kids.
All right. So if you did have that underneath your chair, just know we'll be at the registration with your autographed jersey. That's right.
They're not
They're
listening.
excited.
So
They're
you
excited.
need to do that one more time.
Don't tear up the ballroom now. Look
Who everybody wants one. I see over there. I see one over there. Just know we'll be in the registration with your autograph jersey and a football from Koo. So, John, we just want to take a moment and just say thank you.
Wow.
Let's just get a picture and then we're good to go.
All right.
Yes. Thank you.
And on with the program, right?
Tony Wrestling.
What is financial health? It's figuring out a budget that's right for you and your family. It's managing debt so you can build your future. It's fostering hope that you can manage your money and pursue your goals so that small business dreamers can turn into small business owners. Long-time renters can become first-time homeowners. And you can get to where you need to go. Financial wellness is all about building a strong foundation for life and everything that comes with it.
All right. How's the morning been so far? Yes. This is an amazing, amazing global summit. As I said, I told you, who would have thought that you would get to see so many amazing CEOs? And then I heard a neat story that there was a woman here at 5:30 this morning waiting to get a great seat in the ballroom. Where are you? Is she still here? And she was moved up to a table right in the front just because of her determination and her desire to be here and be part of this today. Maybe she got one of those jerseys and she's out there getting that jersey, huh? But those are the kinds of surprises that you're going to have today. And there's still a whole lot more backstage that you are going to love. So we are excited that you're here. Have you learned anything? Have you met anybody you thought you wanted to see? What's today been like for you? All 3 days. Who's been here all 3 days? Raise your hands. Wow. How many of you from out of town? Oh my gosh. Okay, who's from the farthest away? West Coast anywhere? West Coast? Where? These are some little sorry woos. My goodness. Woo! Woo! Thank you. Act like it's The Price is Right. You're excited to be here. Well, so honored to have you here, being a part of this very special forum. Excuse me, losing my voice this morning. Excited to bring about the next big panel that we've got coming with us. Were you here yesterday for a lot of the activities? Yes? And today kicks off really early. It wraps up very early, so hopefully, you guys will get to enjoy some of Atlanta while you're here as well, for those of you from out of town, and, put some money into our economy, right? We appreciate that. So, this is what we call in the news business, just kind of vamping a little bit till we get to the next point. So I understand severe weather will be coming into our area later tonight, into tomorrow morning. Heavy rain that's coming from the West Coast, California. You guys have seen a lot of bad weather, haven't you? So hopefully this system will move out of here by the weekend. I think that's a good vamp. And let's see, the Hawks today will be going with Tony to visit some children's hospitals. So we've got some neat stories going on here today. I will be back at WSB TV later today for the news at 5 p.m. So I don't want to lose my voice too much before 5 tonight. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we want to bring to the stage now another conversation that will hopefully inspire you to think about what's next, what to do with your investments, with your money, how to make a difference in your communities. The head of community banking and consumer governance for Bank of America, Miss Christine Channels. Christine, are you here? Looking fabulous as always. And there he is, Operation Hope CEO, John Hope Bryant. Give them a big round of applause.
Are you enjoying today? We're coming home. We're coming home. This is the most powerful day of our forum. Tell everybody to watch every part of it. Isn't it cool, all the women who are on stage running things?
Thank you.
We didn't plan it this way. It's just that women are just running things. I just absolutely love it. And this builds, so Bank of America is one of the systemically important institutions in our country. Bank of America was founded through the Bank of Italy, as I recall. It was an immigrant who came to this country and with very little money. Actually, when the San Francisco, I think it was the fire happened in San Francisco, he actually banked in a bar. He actually made loans to small business owners to rebuild from a bar top in San Francisco, and that was a precursor to what we call Bank of America today. Today, Bank of America has 4,300 branches, give or take. Bank of America is the largest concentration of bank branches in our communities in the country, a third of all their branches. And Bank of America was the bank not only that Doug McMillon called first, Brian, your CEO, to be involved with financial literacy for all, but is also the bank that had the first experience changing my mindset. I don't know if you know this, but my mother and I and my sister Monty and brother Donnie, we lived in Compton, California, and I was 9 years old, and I had experience with, unfortunately, a tragic 2 incidents. My best friend was murdered next to me over money when I was 9. The guy who saved my life when I was 7 years old was murdered when I was 7. All this was over money. And by the time I was 9 years old, I was focused on how do I get out of this situation of poverty and this cycle of prison, probation, parole, and problems. I knew there were brilliants all around me in my neighborhood who looked just like me, but I didn't know the business plan. No one had taught us financial literacy. And I didn't know what financial literacy was back then. So I go to school, and this white banker had on a blue suit, a red tie, and a white shirt. Unfortunately, I don't know his name. I never got his business card. I didn't get to keep his business card. He showed it to me. I remember first of all, I said, the only white man I ever met with a suit on was a detective, and it was a really bad suit. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. In our neighborhoods, if you see a white man in a suit on, it's a limited construct because there's no office buildings in our neighborhood. His business card said 16th floor. The only multi-level building in Compton was a courthouse. He was on a salary. My mother worked an hourly job at McDonnell Douglas Aircraft, now Boeing Aircraft, so I couldn't relate to that. She had a lunch break and 2 15-minute breaks. So he was there in the middle of the day. He had this beautiful suit on. Christine, he had a car in the parking lot that had a license plate and tags on it. It was brand new. He was legal. Some of you get this, some of you don't. And I didn't know who this guy was. He had a white shirt on, not a blue collar.
Yeah.
What do you do for a living? I asked him, and how'd you get rich legally? I was dead serious.
Yeah.
And he said, young man, I'm a banker and I finance entrepreneurs. And so I said, sir, I don't know what an entrepreneur is, but if it's legal and you're financing it, and there's a bunch of you in this country that's financing entrepreneurs, if it's legal and you're financing it, I'm going to be one. And I'm an entrepreneur today because that banker came in my classroom at 9 years old and really unleashed the power of markets and money in my life and financial literacy. And, you know, when he first got there, because he didn't want to be there, he was forced to come there because of the Community Reinvestment Act, first year of that, 1977. He said, I don't know you guys. We didn't want him there. He didn't want to be there. And after a couple sessions, he's like, you kids are not so bad. You're sort of remind me of my kids. And we're like, well, for a white guy, you're not so bad. And, you're sort of okay and not what we've seen on TV. And we began to build a relationship. We began to have a trust, banking's trust business, and a rapport. And that's when I asked him that question, the second or third session. I used to, by the way, I don't know, my mother's still here. My mother's right here. My mother, I wanted to be like the banker, so I wanted to wear a suit to school, the third session. And Mom said, I can't afford to buy you suits, so she made me a suit, a three-piece, crushed velvet.
I love it.
Velour, red suit with a ruffled shirt.
Well, you were ready for the formal events, too.
And a big bow tie.
Yeah.
And Christine, she sent me to school. This is like child brutality or something. She sent me to school dressed like this.
Character building.
No, I got my rear end whipped for character building. And I had a briefcase, there was nothing in it but my dreams. And I sold mail order Stacey Adams shoes to all my teachers, inspired by this banker.
Oh, that's awesome.
From Bank of America, so thank you.
I am glad that was a great experience. We are so grateful that you had that experience and able to build what we have today with Operation Hope.
Yeah, and
incredible.
Yes, absolutely. So we have this great partnership together. We've started off with a demonstration project with Hope Inside. Your president, Aaron's, the president of Consumer Bank, is on our global board of advisors. Given the success that you see, what else can we expect from the bank? How we expect you to lean in?
Yeah, that's a great question, and a long partnership with Operation Hope and Bank of America, which we're grateful for. Aaron introduced me to Operation Hope in 2019, so I came and met Mary and the team and learned all about the work that you were doing with Hope Inside. So in 2020, we deployed in LA and Atlanta, 4 financial centers, and really saw the power of Hope Inside and what it meant to be able to refer consumers to coaches and help them achieve their financial goals. And what I'm excited about today is that we're expanding upon that. We're going into 17 U.S. markets, 180 financial centers across the country. Really
Hope Inside?
Yes.
Boom!
Yeah, it's incredible. Our clients are seeing a huge benefit from it.
Fantastic.
Yes, and we're in, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of LMI communities. And so having those Hope coaches that can really support around that community where our centers are has made a big difference. We've seen a lot of improvement in people making their financial goals real.
So beyond the storytelling and the narrative and the good feelings, what I'm hearing you say, Christine, is there's data now that shows this is actually good business.
That is what the difference is. There are a lot of things you do that feel good. We do curriculum and go in and teach literacy, but when you can see the outcome of it, and that's what we see with Operation Hope. We work with clients that we see on average, they increase their FICO scores by 20 points very shortly after working with the Hope Coach. We saw debt reduction of $800+ in a short period of time. And you think about what people have been going through the last 2 years and get these kind of results, and then savings of over $4,300.
How much?
$4,300.
Really?
Guys, this was during a pandemic. I mean, it's incredible what we've been able to see. Real data.
This is somebody making $50,000, $60,000, and you're seeing these changes. So what that's doing is helping to get the bank out of the no business and back into the yes business.
That's so important because we've seen really high client feedback, very high stat. They love the program. But do you know who loves it just as much? Our employees. Because nobody likes saying no. You see these people come in with their financial dreams of wanting to own that car or wanting to own that house, and they just have some credit repair issues, or they need help with the budget. And, you know, we can't go home at night and talk to them about trade-offs on where to put their money and spend it. But the Hope coaches are able to create that one-on-one session, talk to them, help give them advice. And we've seen people within a few months be able to move from not being able to qualify for a car to driving away in one. I mean, it's really incredible.
And what people don't realize, there's two things. Operation Hope is the only nonprofit allowed to operate inside of a bank branch in U.S. history, and it's the FFIEC, the Joint Regulatory Agencies, gave us CRA credit, gave banks CRA credit for having us in bank branches. That was just in 2014, 2015. It's taken a while for this to bake in. But so it's pretty extraordinary to have a nonprofit inside of a bank, period. But on top of that, to have the ability to do things that bankers can't do. People don't realize that the banker cannot take your application, see what's wrong in your application, see your credit file, particularly if they have a loan with you already. They can't tell you, you know what, this is the reason you're declined, or here's the reason we're going to decline you, for either fear they're going to be sued by you, or they may actually breach some federal law. Right. So even though it's good intentions, the banker can't do it. So, but my Hope Inside coach don't work for the bank, they work for me. So now we can do things the banker can't. Yeah. We can pull your credit report and go, girl, that looks like a bus accident. They can't do that. Right. And we can say, well, what's that? They go, I don't know what that is. Well, okay, that's called an error. And the credit bureaus, as the law states, if the bank can't, the credit bureaus, 3 of them, can't prove that that's yours within 30 days when we write a letter, then they must remove it. So we write a letter, bank can't do this, we write a letter on behalf with the applicant to the credit bureaus. 8 times out of 10, they don't confirm it within 30 days, it gets removed. That pops credit scores 20, 30 points.
Easily, yep. And
then we challenge, now the consumer has enough confidence to tackle another issue and another issue. And by the time we finish, we've gotten the credit score up, as you said, 40, 50 points. And now we're able to deal with the budget issues. 2 ways to make money, make more, spend less. Then we get the debt down by a couple $1,000s, get the savings up. I mean, the number you just mentioned is amazing. We're getting savings up. And by the time we finish with that, somebody is actually bank qualified, and the bank can say,
yes.
Yes.
Yes. And that's what we want to say.
To prime financing.
Yes.
This is not like the Homeboy Shopping Network financing. This is not like some.
Exactly.
This is like prime rate. That was funny, you guys. This is like prime rate financing.
We have safe, affordable products and services, and we want to be able to provide those to all of the consumers that want in. You know, I know we've been talking about financial literacy. I love the conversation you had with all the CEOs, because it's a real problem in the U.S., and we are dealing still with 6 million households that are not in banking, and they're using those check cashing services and payday lenders, and it's a cycle of debt and destruction. We did a study and found that $40,000 on average through a lifetime of using that, being outside of banking, is what they're spending on check cashing and wires and payday. That could be in their savings. That could be leading towards retirement. It could be building an investment accounts. So that's where we really feel like we've got to step in and make a difference.
People don't realize how powerful interest rates are. And what you just said about just getting somebody to a point where they can get the same financing that Doug McMillan or Dan Schulman or Tony Resser get, or that I get, or that you get. I read somewhere, if you buy a car for $16,000, no, it's $10,000 at 16% interest, you end up paying for that car 3 times. Did you hear that? You buy a car for $10,000 on a credit card at 16% interest, you'll pay for that car in the life of that 3 times. That's, to me, slavery. Andrew Young says, Ambassador Young, to live in a system of free enterprise and not to understand the rules of free enterprise must be the modern definition of slavery. It's what we're not dumb and we're not stupid. We're brilliant, but no one gave us the lessons on money and financial literacy because the Freedmen's Bank failed. No one gave us what I call civil rights. They gave us civil rights. We needed that, but now we need this too. And if you get a Mercedes-Benz with a 18% interest rate, it's not a Mercedes-Benz, it's Mercedes payments.
Yeah.
But if you get it at 2%, now that's a completely transformational transaction. We've got to be as obsessed about this conversation about accretive finance and understanding this as we are about the contextual things in our lives. Is this something, in the little time we have, I want two questions. One, is this something, when I met you in the back, I saw the twinkle in your eyes. This is important to me. It's personal to you.
Yeah.
The little time we have, two questions. Why is this personal to you? I can tell you care in your eyes. Number two, I just love authenticity. I hate toxicity, so I love this sort of authenticity you have. Why is this relevant to you? And how does it relate to what the overall mission with Bank of America is about and what you're leading?
Well, personally, I grew up in an LMI neighborhood and
low to moderate income.
Low to moderate income, and my parents did have checking accounts, and there was a savings account. My mom was teaching, but they didn't know about investing. They didn't know about how to make real money that would later allow them to retire. And when I went to school, I had a friend that had gone to business school that taught me about stock markets and investing. And I was like, why isn't this available to everyone? Why is this a secret? Why do you have to go to business school to learn these things? You know, I had a civics teacher that on his own accord taught us how to balance a checkbook when I was in 9th grade because we didn't understand it. And I look at that and I'm like, if healthcare is available to all, and it should be, financial education and literacy should be given to all of us at an early age. They're just as important.
I'm going to say something, I'm going to take a risk here because I don't know your story. As I look in your eyes, I'm also seeing something else. Independence and freedom. That a woman stays with an abusive man with 3 children because of money. A woman oftentimes will feel chained to a situation because maybe no one taught her money. My guess is that you getting that knowledge from that friend and you gaining this empowerment, now you're in this powerful position, it gives you independence.
Yeah, freedom of choice. Freedom of choice is what I wanted, to be able to make choices for myself and not be stuck with someone else deciding for me.
That's what I'm talking about. I've asked every leader who's spoken here to do something, and I'm going to ask you to think about it as well. I just want you to reach one and teach one. I want you to find a young girl that has light in her eyes. You might find them in the hallways of the forum. You might get, in the next 6 or 12 months, as you run across families in the branches that you talk to, find a young girl who you think has that same light that I'm seeing in your eyes. Maybe they're from a low to moderate income community like you and I came from. Maybe they're black or brown. So maybe you have a little bit that you have to learn from each other. And see if you can touch her, give her that same self-esteem and that same independence that you now have.
I will.
Will?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great talking to you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please say thank you to Christine.
Thank you.
And Bank of America.
Thank you.
All right, John, I understand we have some special awards to do now.
Okay.
So, going to let you start by presenting the first.
This is easy. I told you the story yesterday of Philippe Bourguignon from France. That Phil Griffin, who got the award yesterday of MSNBC, I met him through a guy who I met in a little town in Germany, Philippe Bourguignon, who lives in France. And as I understand it, he couldn't be with us. So I believe we have a message from France.
Boom.
Philippe!
Here I am.
Love you, man. Congratulations and welcome to you, the 30 Years of Hope Legacy Leadership Award. On our 30th anniversary, we wanted to say thank you to all who helped us get here, and that means you.
Well, John, thank you. It was a privilege. I'm sorry first I couldn't be here. I'm so upset I couldn't be with you. That's one thing.
That was money.
I keep saying, everybody, John, that the most important thing in your life is or are encounters and moments. And that's what makes you a different person or a better person. Meeting you, John, was one of those encounters in 2013, as you said, in a little town north of Germany. The Hope Global Forum in Atlanta at the airport, also in 2013, was, and all of those forums who followed, which I had the privilege to chair, each of them were a succession of moments. You know, I praise what you do. I praise what Operation Hope as an organization is doing in local communities. And I don't want to talk too long, but I think that communities are more important today than they have been in the last 20 years. In a world which is collapsing in a number of ways, with wars, with threats, with economic issues and so on, we are moving from a global world into more of a feudal world. We are going backwards. And communities in this new world are going to be even more important than they were in the past. So John, thank you for what you're doing. And thank you, Operation Hope. And again, I'm so proud I've collaborated with you. I just want to say there was, for me, a number of other encounters within Operation Hope. Andrew Young, Lisa Border, Bill Rogers, Steve Bartlett, Kevin Boucher, and so many others. I started to make a list, but it was beyond one page. So I hope that those I've not mentioned will excuse me. But this has been a great moment in my life. Thank you very much, John.
I love you, man. Thank you, Philippe. And Philippe, I want to thank you also for what you did to the inner city, well, the rural areas in Paris. What you may not know, in America, the inner cities are called, urban America, black and brown folks tend to stay in inner cities in America. Every place else in the world, an inner city is invaluable real estate. An inner city in France is called Paris. An inner city in the UK is called London. Anywhere in the world. Only in America were we stupid enough and so discriminatory that we thought, let's put poor people, black people, brown people, in inner cities. Well, let me tell you how God works. If we're smart, the place they thought they were going to banish us to will become the most valuable real estate in the world when we decide to own it ourselves. Every inner city in America is a gold mine. In Paris, in Paris, that's their inner city. The poor live and the brown people live in rural areas. And Philippe went to the president of France. We weren't successful, but he tried to get the president of France to bring Operation Hope to France to deal with the rural areas there, to bring them into the economy. We're not going to give up. We're going to go back and do it again. But this is, again, another example of people around the world doing more. This is a global movement, and you helped to make it so. Thank you, Philippe Bourguignon.
And John, you have to help me in making it happen. Again, this moment where in France we are not able, because of the French red tape, to make it happen, I can make it happen now. So let's coordinate.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
And now, a hometown hero.
Woo!
Before almost anybody else engaged, we have a partnership with UPS. And UPS, I believe, was the first corporation in our headquarters city of Atlanta to have hope inside the workplace. Before that, they also invested in our emergency disaster recovery work. So whenever there's a hurricane or anything going on in America, UPS is called because they're a logistics company, and they wanted to help in a different kind of a way. So they were the first sponsor for our Hope Inside disaster work. So every time we have a Hope Inside location, when there's a disaster, basically we flip the shingle out front from Hope Inside home ownership, or Hope Inside small business, or Hope Inside community, or Hope Inside the workplace, or Hope Inside of a bank. We flip it to Hope Inside disaster. We have a partnership with Homeland Security and FEMA, the only nonprofit to have that partnership, and that is funded exclusively by UPS. Are they here? Where's just Joe Ruiz or somebody here to accept this award? Nicole who runs the foundation. Hey, come on out, come on. How you doing, man?
Doing great, John. Thanks, John.
Good. I want to thank you and Joe, and the whole team, for all that you have done, the retired executives. We've gone through a series of people at UPS, but the commitment has been absolutely consistent. Hope Inside the Workplace, I get reports from your hubs in Chicago and other places of how it's changing the lives. Well, don't let me say this. You say it. Congratulations on your award. Please give us a few words.
Thank you, John. Well, John, let me just say this. We have been, well, first of all, congratulations, 30 years, Operation Hope. We have partnered, as you said, since the beginning, but what I'm maybe most proud of is the work that Operation Hope has done since the pandemic. Over the last 3 years, you have kept alive families, small businesses, hundreds of thousands, and together we've also helped many, many hundreds of thousands of people who've been impacted by disasters. And I just can't tell you, John, as you said, we're going to take Hope Inside to our hubs. We're going to use your data analytics to talk about where we need to raise the FICO scores. We're going to Chicago. We're going to New York.
Nice.
We're going to LA. We're going to use those data analytics to make a difference. And if I could just say one quick thing about all the entrepreneurs that are here today, I want to tell you a little example about a 15-year-old who had to quit school to go to work when his dad got sick. His name was Jim Casey, and 115 years ago he created UPS, which is now providing economic empowerment in over 200 countries around the world. And I wanted to tell you that, John, we couldn't do it without you. You said yesterday that rising tides lift all boats. We believe that at UPS in our economic empowerment efforts. We believe in Operation Hope, and thank you for this award.
So, hold on. So this is great. So Jim Casey, he just mentioned, Jim Casey, the founder, had a messenger service. You correct me if I'm wrong, and he rode a bicycle.
That's right.
And when Jim Casey met Henry Ford, and they connected the messenger service with automotive, that's what you now have, the UPS that you understand today that is mobile with automobiles and now these beautiful brown trucks, where really you're creating middle-class wages now with these UPS drivers. It's a pathway. People stay with you for decades.
That's right.
It's a pathway to a upper middle-class, stable lifestyle.
That's right.
And what you're witnessing here, I believe, is a bit of history. When a UPS and a Delta Airlines, and these folks say they're going to bring Hope Inside the Workplace, financial well-being, inside of their companies to do financial coaching for the first time in history, you're seeing history being made in real time. This has never happened before.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
John, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Are you guys having fun? The best is yet to come. Hey, it's John O'Brien, founder of Operation Hope. And I'm here to talk to you about our newest innovation I'm so excited about, which is the Hope Financial Wellness Index, otherwise known as the Hope Community Credit Index. And sometimes I call it the 700 Credit Score Index. You can go to our website and just go to the Hope Financial Wellness Index, or then search under Community Credit Index. It'll come up. And you can type in your zip code, and you tell me your zip code, I'll tell you how you're living. You type in your zip code, it'll tell you your credit score, either where you're living now or where you grew up. If you want to understand your neighborhood, you want to understand how other people view your neighborhood, like marketers, retailers, major corporations. Why do you have, Walmart or Target in one neighborhood Why do you have upscale department stores in another neighborhood? Data can power change. Access it today. Go see a Hope Financial coach today. Change your life today. And thank you, Experian, for powering the Hope Community Credit Score Index with a little bit of support also from FICO. God bless. This area here, which could be extraordinarily prosperous, is actually responsible for living here. A life expectancy, 20 years old. So the average life expectancy in another part of Chicago, 10 minutes from here, is 81 years old. The same potential, same aspirations, same quality of people, same love, same God-fearing spirit, but they missed the memo on free enterprise, capitalism, economic and opportunity. And so it just passed them right by. The Hope did. I'm gonna buy some product from these guys. Is the business better at a certain time? Better in the morning, better in the afternoon? After 12 o'clock at night? My man tells me he does better from midnight until 3 in the morning because the gas stations are closed. And is it safe for you to roll that time of night?
It's never safe. It ain't safe now. I know it was a shooting down there earlier.
I want to invest in your business. I don't want nothing. I want to invest in your business. I'm gonna give you my card.
Okay.
Just email me what you would do if I made a modest investment in this. This is just beautiful. I love it, man. You made my day.
All right, John.
All right, man. God bless you.
Made bad, but
So what made you want to say, I want to invest?
The dude's got, you look in his eye, I mean, he's about his business. He's like talking to a corporate executive. My market share is this. I'm the only guy here. I stay out of here. The customers don't come anymore. My best time is midnight to 3 in the morning. I have safety issues, but here's how I augment it. I got an employee. I got wholesale, retail rates. He's talking like a proper business person, and he, needed somebody to believe in him. That's it. Just past Saxford Avenue, it's a whole nother realm. This is nothing but wealth. This is 20 minutes away 20 minutes away from where we were. This is a 739 credit score neighborhood. I just left a 597 credit score neighborhood. This is just stability. The unemployment rate here is 2.3% compared to 11 to 20% from where I just left. And it's not about the credit score. It's about the trending indicators underneath the credit score: hope, well-being, engagement, belief, confidence, trust, but also access to capital. You've got to be intentional about this. If you want to stabilize, I know this sounds crazy. You want to stabilize the neighborhood. I can't control racism. I can't control bias. I can't control political environments. But I can help you control your credit score. Today, we just told the story of America, the dichotomy of two cities and two worlds. And I really believe moving credit scores 100 points, neighborhood by neighborhood, does it. We just told the tale of modern America.
That's amazing. And he was just in my hometown, so it gives me chills because I know exactly where he was in both locations. And it is blocks away, a couple minutes away. And it's like that everywhere we live. So what an amazing opportunity to see what's going on in your neighborhood. Please, I hope you utilize the tools that John is offering. Ladies and gentlemen, please now welcome Abigail Lovell, Chief Sustainability Officer for Experian. Help you know your credit score, joining us from California. Good morning, Abigail.
Hi there. How are you?
I'll let you take it away and
excited.
tell people what they need to know and how they can do it.
Well, Experian is definitely thrilled to partner with Operation Hope, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there today, but congratulations to everyone at Hope for putting on such an amazing conference, and more importantly, 30 years of impact. It's just outstanding. We are so thrilled to partner with Operation Hope on the Hope Financial Wellness Index. And as John said in that video, it's the underlying indicators that make such a difference. And what a great platform this index is to tell the story of how we can help educate around financial hope, financial education, and financial literacy. So that's really the thing that gets us excited, and me especially at Experian. I'm so passionate about this, and being able to get analysts and technologists to partner with Hope to actually create this tool is just amazing. So I just really wanted to say thank you to Operation Hope.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for being here and being a part of this. And, you know, people are out here wondering, how important is that credit score? Can you just tell them what they need to know about that?
Yes, and as we talk to different consumers, we know so much that people, you know, we just take for granted. People that have credit don't understand how hard it is to get access to credit, especially if you don't know and you haven't talked about credit and finances growing up and being in a household that really regularly talked about finances. And a credit score is, to me, it's really how you get access to all finances. And so, you know, it starts with education. It'll get you your first car. It'll get you your first apartment. It'll get you your first home. So really taking that initial first step is really opening doors to your financial life.
All right.
So
Thank you so much for your time. And Experian should be a very big part of what everybody is checking into out here. Thank you again. Let's give her a big round of applause. Next up, two gentlemen who found a new way, actually, to get people to pay attention to how they make, how they spend, and what they actually do with their money. Please welcome Earn Your Leisure co-founders and co-CEOs, Rashad Balil and Troy Millings, joining John Hope Bryant.
These guys are superstars in financial literacy. Give them some love. They've done what I have not and could not. They've made this issue cool. I have said repeatedly that what Quincy Jones says, it takes 20 years to change a culture. In the last 20 years, it could be argued that our folks in our neighborhoods have made dumb sexy. We've dumbed down and celebrated it. What we got to do in the next 20 years is to make smart sexy again. Not only can we do it, we will do it. It is our legacy. It is our calling. Whenever the rules are published and the playing field is level, we succeed. The arts, professional sports, politics and public service, the rules are published, the playing field level, we killed it. We succeeded. But in areas of free enterprise, capitalism, economics, ownership, entrepreneurship, opportunity, we lost the Freedmen's Bank in 1865. It was taken from us. It was defaced. It was used and abused. Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass. And there was a distrust about our people in banking and finance for good reason. We lost half of our depositors, black Union soldiers, after the Civil War in that debacle of the Freedmen's Bank. We're trying to finish that work in our own way today. And then 100 years after that came Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a pastor, talking about the Poor People's Campaign. You may not know that, but in this hotel and in the ballroom just down the hall here, Ambassador Andrew Young, who's here, and Dr. King held their last strategy meeting for the Poor People's Campaign, the last meeting he held before he was assassinated. We got to make sure we get some photos of you in that room, because I think you're continuing that sort of public advocacy that Dr. King and Andrew Young framed out with that movement. I think that you're doing this in your own way. You are continuing this effort to inform the masses about the power of the classes. Yes?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So you guys have done a great job marrying black culture and financial well-being. Me and Charlemagne were bragging about you just a few weeks ago. Charlemagne will be with us here very soon to close out the program. And you've done this great job of marrying black culture and financial well-being to showcase inspiring stories and the latest trends in finance. How did the vision of Earn Your Leisure come about? And my guess is it's embedded in both of your personal stories. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I think it's really a story in purpose, right? This is a purpose-driven mission. By trade, I was an educator, so I was teaching.
Whoa, slow down. Would you just say that?
I was an educator.
An engineer?
Educator.
An educator. Same thing.
Yeah. Same thing. Yeah. Shout out to all the teachers out there. Rashad was a financial advisor by trade, and it really came about when we were working with young adults. It was a summer internship program, and at the end of the program, based on how they performed in it, we were going to pay them. And so it came to us like, if we're going to start paying the kids, we need to actually teach them about money, teach them about the principles about saving, investing, how to invest, where the different asset classes to invest to. And we quickly realized, like, this is something not only the kids need to learn, but their parents need to learn. And so it was quickly like, there's no age limit to this. So financial literacy is something that could be something for an 8-year-old or it could be for an 80-year-old. And then he had the brilliant vision of looking at the landscape of social media. And rather than us teaching in this small classroom, he said, let's record it and put it out to the masses. That's kind of how...
That was his idea.
That was his idea. So I'll let him take the vision.
Quiet one.
Yeah, just watching the power of social media also. So a few different things will happen simultaneously, but, I kind of saw the pathway for social media earlier in 2012, and I saw how powerful it was, and it really democratized the whole society as far as, it was the first time I thought in human history where you could become a celebrity for being a chef, for being a personal trainer. You can have that same level of following that a musician would have or an athlete would have. So with that, I saw an opportunity to be, rock stars in the financial literacy space. At the time, it sounded crazy, but I had the whole idea of, writing books and traveling and doing tours, pretty much everything that we do now. But I saw a way that we could blend financial literacy and culture and make it entertaining, make it fun, but also make it educational at the same time. And, utilizing social media, which is free, and, the most powerful leverage that we have today. Most of us waste it, but that's a different conversation. But, just seeing that opportunity for education to actually grow at scale was something that, thought would be pretty attainable. And we started it, and everything that we kind of envisioned and more has come true so far.
Back up. You said something pretty powerful. You just sort of walked right past it. You said, we have this powerful tool, we mostly waste it. Go deeper.
Well, I feel the cell phone, in my opinion, is, if not one of the top greatest inventions of all time. Because it's so powerful when you
yeah. Like a little computer, isn't it?
But it's everything. So, we went to Egypt, and anybody that studies Egypt, the library at Alexander, they said it was the greatest library in human history at that time. And it was burnt to the ground, and they were saying that, so many books and so much history and so much education was lost. But just think about how big and how, massive that library was. You can 100x that in your phone right now. Anything that has ever happened in human history, you can look up in your phone. You can have any math equation, you can figure it out in a couple of seconds on your phone. Like, there's literally nothing that you can't do for the most part by using your cell phone. You can track your heart rate. You can track the steps that you take. You can communicate with somebody in China. It's really an amazing device. And I feel that most of us take it for granted. So when we utilize social media, we're utilizing it for entertainment. And we're going on different blog sites, and we're following sports pages, and we're debating with people. And what that's doing is taking up a lot of time. And it's something that's beneficial for the social media apps because they're keeping you on it, and you have your attention. Most people think that
and they got your data.
Well, that's the most important thing. So I did a lesson about what's the most important commodity in the world, and it's really attention.
Repeat that again now?
It's attention.
Okay.
So, human attention is more valuable than gold. It's more valuable than oil. So this is why, these apps are free, but they're not really free because you're paying with your attention. And your attention can be monetized, and that's what they're doing.
Woo!
Somebody that's fat.
Woo! Now that's some wisdom there. Repeat that one more time for folks in the back of the room.
Yeah, anything that's free, you're usually the product. So when it's something,
you gotta slow down.
Yeah. If it's free, you're the product. So
if it's free,
you're the product.
You're the product.
Yeah.
And you're paying with your intention.
Yep.
You're paying with your attention. They're benefiting with their intention.
Yep.
Of your attention.
Yep. I like that.
That's it.
So
we got a little rap thing going on. See how to put it into
all we need is a beat.
See how we blended that?
But yeah, so just studying that, it's like, okay, if we're going to be on social media all day, every day, like everybody else, why don't we utilize it for something that's beneficial? And today, it's the greatest time in human history. Like for us, we started a podcast with no money at all. There's no startup costs and just a couple of cell phones. And we grew that into a media company, which is a worldwide brand at this point. We just performed at Royal Albert Hall, which is the most prestigious venue in Europe, one of the most prestigious venues in the world. So I appreciate that. But it's not even for me to actually get applause. It's to actually inspire and motivate, because I feel like if we can do it, then anybody can do it. And like I said, when the technology has empowered everybody and it's leveled the playing field. So now we have a device that you can literally produce content for free, and you can reach people all over the world for free. So the same way that it's being used against us, we're using it for positivity, and we have been able to grow at scale in a very short period of time because we have a tremendously good business model. It's low overhead, it's high profit margins, and it's scalable. So business 101, that looks good.
I want to go back a little further to your childhoods, actually beyond your professional, to your childhoods, because I'm not vibing. This is just some thing for you guys to pursue your professional endeavors or to make money or even just to succeed, even though I want you to do all those things. I'm feeling something personal. Every time I meet you, I get this sense that this is purposeful for you. That comes from a deeper well. Before we go to that, though, let me tell you, the audience, why I say that they're doing something that I could not. People give me a lot of credit. I can't do this. I wish I could. I can't do this. Bishop Jakes jokes with me. He says, John, he said, what I do is sort of easy in the pulpit. I'm giving people what they already want. And I'm helping them to get where they need to go. You, John, are putting sugar on turpentine. Nobody wants to be talked about their money. Nobody wants to be told no. My job is to tell people no. No, you shouldn't be doing that. No, that's ridiculous. People get upset with me. That's silly. That's ridiculous. Don't do that. Bitcoin, when it's your last coin, is the wrong coin. I mean, I say stuff to people, and people get upset with me, but I think if you love somebody, you tell them the truth.
Yeah.
But that means that I'm going to have limits to how much I can do, because I'm not telling you. I'd rather you respect me and learn to like me than like me and never respect me. But it's not the only business model. Dr. King would never have been successful. Best preacher the world's ever seen. But Dr. King needed three things that he didn't have. He needed celebrity support. He needed the media, and he needed his wife. Celebrity in the media, we understand that. It's marketing. It's making that message and bringing it to life. And I said earlier, Bernice King is now keeping his legacy alive now. But if Coretta Scott King had married after Dr. King was assassinated and not embedded that legacy into an institution called the King Center, got the King birthday in the law, and really nurtured that legacy, he would just be this great preacher that lived in the 20th century. He wouldn't be this global figure we have today. It takes a village. It takes a strategy. Dr. King needed brilliance and all the rest of that. But even he was selling something easier than what I'm selling. I'm dealing with people's money and their financial decisions. I'm telling people what they don't want to do because they've been doing it for 3 or 4 generations. And I'm saying stop all of that, knock it off, and go this other direction. First thing they're going to do is curse me out, which is fine. But we're now seeing a paradigm shift. What I see you guys are doing is you are managing this beautiful, elegant storyline of our aspirations untold. You're telling us what we can do and what we can be and where we can go. You're managing the pivot. And there's a quote that you have about relationships are more powerful than money. What is it?
Relationships are more valuable than money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that, but let's go back also to where this all began. Tell me about somebody in your life that made you think differently about yourself. When I meet both of you, I see self-love.
Yeah, I mean, I'm first generation American. And so when we talk about financial literacy, I think of it as a foreign language, right? And so when you think about
Where you from?
My parents are from Jamaica.
Okay.
And so shout out to the y'all. And so finances weren't something that we even talked about. In fact, like the only thing I knew about money, even up to my teenagers years, that when my dad get paid, my mom took the money to pay the bills.
Yeah.
That was my financial education until I started being around people who were in finance, having a best friend who was starting his.
You guys are best friends? Yeah. I love it.
So, starting his career in that and then graduating and realizing, wait, I need to really figure out this thing that I don't know anything about. And so I treated it like a foreign language. And I said, all right, if I don't know it, how do I get to study it? How do I become more fluent in it? And so it started with teaching kids. And the more I taught, the more I had to learn. That's one of the things about in education is like, the more I learn, the more I have to give. And so that became the thing. I got to give, which means I got to learn. And to the point was like, I got a pretty good grasp of this, which people are able to see now. And so it started with the lack of education was the inspiration for me to get educated, because I knew not only were my generations watching, but I'm in front of kids. That's right. Like this is the next generation, right? So imagine I didn't know the information at 20, but imagine if the kid at 12 gets it.
That's right.
How much further is he going to be? How much further is she going to be?
That's right.
And so that's always been the mission. It's like, all right, grab the next generation. Let's give them as much as we learn. And in fact, when we feel like we've learned too much or we've learned enough, we need to go seek sources to learn even more, because this next generation is relying on it.
And so that's why you went from education to financial education.
That's why I would say educator, not teacher, right?
Gotcha.
People think teacher, they think school building, they think four walls. But when you're in education, you realize that learning doesn't stop with the four walls. It goes on. What you learn outside of those four walls.
That's right.
Right? And so the conversations at home, the conversations amongst your peers, it's not like who's the best basketball player. It's like, even now, like, yo, did you see the CPI numbers today? The conversation's changed. And so I'm glad that you brought up Dr. King, because you're right? We weren't born during the civil rights movement. And in fact, the last piece of it was the economic dream.
That's right.
And so that's why we call this movement in time, and everybody in here is part of it, the financial revolution.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's that movement, right, where there was clear leaders of the civil rights movement. But the leader of this movement now is the information. So how do you stop information? You don't. That's why we got to keep providing it. And everybody has a role to play. Like, people look at us and what you're saying is extremely humbling, right? But there's somebody in here who heard information that we said or something that you said, and now they go home and take it.
That's right.
And they change their family's trajectory, right?
That's right.
And they change their community's trajectory. And so this revolution, it's a beautiful thing, because we have the resources now, right? That tool that he's talking about, everybody in this room has it. In fact, people are holding it up right now.
That's right.
Right? That's the resource. The information is going to be provided by the people who are giving the information, giving out the information, and now what do we do with it?
And by the way, the same way you guys tweet and social media share and Instagram, when you go to a concert or you go to a club or you go wherever it is you go. And by the way, when you go to the club after COVID and you go back to the club with your mask on and you're there and the guy says, oh, she's fine, or the girl says, oh, he's handsome, after you figure out what that name is and all that stuff, I want you to remember this session. Oh, what's your name? Oh, you're so fine, brother. Next thing the question is, what's your credit score?
Yeah.
What are you about in your life? Because this is more cute passes. That don't last. This is your business partner for life. Real talk. Real talk. So, how is this personal to you?
So, growing up, financial literacy, I had the perfect blend of financial literacy. My mom was a school teacher, and my dad was a financial advisor.
Okay.
So my mom...
Where?
Huh?
Where? Where'd you grow up?
In Greenburg. It's a small town called Greenburg, New York. It's in Westchester County, like 20 minutes outside the Bronx.
Okay.
Working class environment. So I think it was extremely beneficial because I was exposed to both sides of the spectrum. My mom, always had a job, union, was very scared of entrepreneurship because I got to see the good and bad side of entrepreneurship. Like, people don't understand, like, if you don't get paid for a couple of weeks, that's a tremendous burden on your family. So it's like, all right, if you have one parent that income fluctuates, the other parent whose income is stable has to make up for that, but that can cause issues. So you just have to see that. So I got to see that, but I always appreciated my dad because he always had the entrepreneurial spirit. And there's ups and downs in entrepreneurship. It's not always going to be great time, but you have to have a tremendous amount of courage to go outside every day and bet on yourself. So that was something that was always appealing to me growing up. So I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to be in business, inspired by him. And like I said, my mom was always into education. So I always understood the value of education. I wasn't a great student, but it wasn't that I wasn't actually capable of learning. I just wasn't interested in the way that they were teaching me. So realizing that, the way that the school system teaches kids is outdated and it's only geared towards one style of learning. When I realized...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We know.
Every time you clap, you're giving encouragement for their ideas, and you're sending a message to the world. You want the world to back what you just clapped for.
Thank you. So just realizing that if I'm learning different, how many other people are learning different, just like me? So that was another reason why we wanted to start Earn Your Leisure, but then do it in a way that's different. Because I feel like for a long time, people were left out of the conversation of financial literacy because they felt intimidated. They're like, okay, if you don't wear a suit, if you don't work on Wall Street, if you didn't go to an Ivy League school, you're not worthy of having a conversation about stock investing, and just stay where you're at. But we kind of democratized that. So now it doesn't matter if you're a sanitation worker or a CEO. Everybody should have access to information, and nobody should feel ashamed of it. So we reach people where they're at. And like I said, we have a huge following in the jail. We have a huge following in schools. We have a huge following in corporate America because they're all important and their voices are all valuable. So that's something that's very important to us.
Absolutely. Look, I want you to wrap. Last question is Dr. King's last book, where do you go from here? What can people expect from next for Earn Your Leisure? Before you do that, think about that answer. Let me tell you why we asked him to be here. Everything I do is intentional. It's not an accident. Bishop T.D. Jakes wants me to be a better orator, a better communicator. I want him to be a better businessman. I want him to be successful. That's a black man supposedly doing what I'm doing. We both have nonprofits. There's enough poverty to go around. There's enough problems to go around. We need to stop this crab in the barrel BS, this crap. We need everybody who's credible to win. I wanted people to see me and Bishop T.D. Jakes on stage rooting for each other. I want people to see me and these bad brothers on stage with me rooting for them. We need them to do what I can't. Enough with this player hating stuff, and I gotta do everything, and if it's not my way, it's a highway. That's nothing but insecurity and fear. If I don't like me, I'm not gonna like you. If I don't feel good about me, I'm not gonna feel good about you. If I don't respect me, don't expect me to respect you. If I don't love me, I don't have a clue how to love you. And here's the big one. If I don't have a purpose in my life, I'm gonna make your life a living hell. Because whatever goes around, we gotta knock it off. We gotta come together. If I can create 1,000 hope insides in this country, but nobody knows about it, I've failed. So I want to create the infrastructure. That's my mission. But I need the Pied Piper to send them my way. So these brothers are going to do it. Angela Yee's going to do it. T.I.'s going to do it. Killer Mike's going to do it. Charlamagne's going to do it. Howard Hughes, all these thought leaders in celebrity and media are now grabbing hold to the civil rights issue of our generation. But it won't work unless we all work. So what I want investors watching this to do, and corporations with budget, when you allocate your funds, you should be thinking about them. Okay.
Can't argue with that.
That's a smart man. Very smart guy. I think the mission going forward is kind of what you just touched on, in that we've seen financial literacy, financial education, financial wealth be championed from the reception that we've got here in America, but it's about global expansion. And so we're very intentional about that. We don't just think that these issues are unique to the United States. And so when we go to Lagos, Nigeria, that young person, that young man, that young woman who's hearing the information for the first time, when they hear that information, it's a breath of fresh air because nobody's talking to them, right? But we're not going there to say these are the issues that we're facing in America here, let's lay them on you. We want to know what's happening there. And we want to find the brilliant minds there and highlight them the same way we've kind of highlighted entrepreneurs here in America. You can clap for that.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
It is a global forum.
It's a global forum, right? So when we do Invest Fest in London, it's very intentional.
That's right.
We want to talk to the people who haven't had a voice, right? Who felt like they were underrepresented, who felt like they couldn't relate to anybody in the level of finance. And so it's like, here we are to come show you the people that are here, to highlight them, but also give you the information that we've learned. And so it's a global expansion about financial wealth, financial education, and financial fluency.
Amen.
Yeah, and I think that going more into the education space as well. We're working with the New York City Department of Education, and hopefully, we'll be able to have curriculum put in place. If you think about New York City, which is the capital of capitalism, and the largest school department in America doesn't have financial literacy as a mandatory part of their curriculum, it's kind of crazy. So I feel like if we're able to teach young people financial literacy, we're going to be able to stop them from making decisions that can cripple them for the rest of their life. You're getting $20,000 of credit card debt because you were ill-informed. Well, that can last 30 years. They say that 60% of African-American wealth goes to pay off student loans. So it's
how much?
60%
of African-American wealth
goes to pay off student loans.
Wow.
And most of those loans are backed by the government. So most of our wealth is going back to the United States government to pay off students. That's a whole different conversation. So
Freeman's Bank.
I feel
the new version.
Like the global expansion is extremely important, but also here domestically, reaching young people at an extremely important age and being able to expand and develop curriculum that can go, nationwide, globally, and really champion financial literacy and financial empowerment is important.
Ladies and gentlemen, the advocates for the 21st century of financial literacy, earn your leisure.
Thank you.
It's not easy keeping up with little Kendall Fleetwood, especially on her home turf at the playground, because her tiny feet never seem to stop moving, no matter what. And if you don't have running shoes on, good luck trying to keep up. If you do get her to sit down for a minute, she'll give you the highlights of her young resume.
I'm in kindergarten, and my name is Kendall, and I'm 5 years old. They teach me my ABCs and my sight words.
Her mom will tell you that Kendall's a fast learner who's ahead of the curve, not just in school, but at home, in matters of money, because she's learning the importance of saving.
I get down now.
Okay, come on. What are you going to do with money that you save?
Save my birthday money.
You want to save birthday money?
So she pretty much know how to save. They have a little water, the little water bottles, and they know how to put their dollars in there when they get money. And so she's pretty good at saving.
So good, in fact, that she got a chance to meet Mayor Bottoms as part of the city's new Child Savings Account program.
Atlanta's citywide child savings account will benefit low-income families who have kindergartners that are starting in school this year in Atlanta Public Schools. It's a savings account. We are starting off our young people at their first age in school thinking about investing in their future. We're doing an automatic enrollment for low-income families, noting that they may not have the resources to set up a savings account. But any family with a child in the city of Atlanta may opt in to the Child Savings Account program.
The program is a way of investing in a child's academic future.
It's meant to provide seed deposits and encourage investment over time so that when children are ready to make decisions about their post-secondary life, albeit college or vocational training, or maybe they want to start their own business, they have a fund there that's already been developed for them based on the investments from their families and from the city.
Do you not love that? A savings account for kindergartners right here in the city of Atlanta. So to talk more about that and for us to just get a chance to listen to what he has to say to us, let me bring to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, stand up as we welcome the 61st mayor of this great city of Atlanta, the Honorable Andre Dickens.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. It's good to see each and every last one of you, and thank you, Karen, my dear friend, for that introduction. Welcome to Atlanta, everybody. Come on. You're in the best place in the United States to live, according to Money Magazine. So I'm excited to have you here today, and I'm excited to join you this afternoon as we are addressing issues that figured prominently in my decision to run for mayor. As a child growing up in Adamsville neighborhood here in Atlanta, I am keenly aware of the disparities facing many of our city's children. And that is indeed that we have a divide, and we're working on a bridge to cover that divide. As mayor, I will continue to find opportunities to invest in all of our young people, especially those coming from underserved communities. That's one reason why I've made the city's first of its kind investment in early childhood education. And we are not stopping there. My administration will keep launching and supporting programs that create sustained success and long-lasting impact. One such program is the Child Savings Account, launched by my friend and predecessor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, when she was mayor. A year ago, the city partnered with APS and this amazing organization right here, Operation Hope, to develop this program. And I am proud to announce today that we have plans in my administration to expand that program even further. As Mayor Bottoms has started this great program in connection with Operation Hope, we're partnering even further. And we're going to have a commitment of $2 million to expand it over the next 4 years, and that will ensure that APS students have access not just to savings accounts, but also investment accounts. We can clap for that. But just like in late night TV, but wait, there's more. I'm also directing the city's investment arm, Invest Atlanta, to leverage its loan fund and designate $500,000 to support local businesses emerging from Operation Hope's free business development program, with interest rates that have been capped at 4%. And you guys know what interest rates are right now, right? So those loans will be capped at 4%. And those loans can be microloans or larger, and so they can range from $5,000 to $25,000 and so on. Invest Atlanta would also provide free technical assistance to augment what these businesses receive from Operation Hope. And so we're starting with a $500,000 investment, but intend to ask the Atlanta City Council to match that and therefore grow that fund to $1 million. And so I won't ever stop working to move Atlanta forward for all of us. And so now I guess we're going to go over here and have a fireside chat. So let's talk some more.
You know, I think we have spoiled you guys at the Hope Global Forum. The mayor of the moral capital of America, the city of Atlanta, wait a minute, hold on. Honest, integrity, humble, hardworking, from the city, don't take himself too seriously, Still the same nice guy he was before he was mayor. That's not always the case. Shows up at a Hope Global Forum with something that no city has ever done, which are children savings accounts for kindergarten kids in partnership with a nonprofit and a bank to grow it. Do you know that a kid who has an account at kindergarten is half more likely to go to college, just an account, and a kid with money in it is 2/3 likely to graduate? What they've done, what they've done here is to move from civil rights to include in the government charter civil rights, creating stakeholders and citizens at kindergarten, stakeholders who will own homes. But that's not it. Something else went right over your head. I'm back there cheering. Louisa at Invest Atlanta, Eloisa from Invest Atlanta, who's here. She's here somewhere. Eloisa from Invest Atlanta, CEO, has worked under the mayor to create something that we have never done. 1 Million Black Business Initiative is very cool. We got announcements coming out about our results in about a week. It's going to blow you away. $130 million from Shopify, $20 million from True. All that's great. And creating this ladder mayor where people get a website, a domain name, a website. They get payment systems. They get delivery systems. They get an e-commerce site. They get an accountant, a lawyer. All this is great. Yes, it's fantastic.
Right.
But, and nobody's ever called me on it. We don't provide capital. This has been going on for 2 years. We never provided capital. And what he just said today went right over your head. In the city of Atlanta, thanks to Invest Atlanta, entrepreneurs will go through this program, and as they grow, now you'll be able to access 1, 2, 3, maximum 4% flexible capital. You're having a situation where you can't make your payments. You go to Invest Atlanta, they renegotiate your credit agreement and give you breathing room for 6 months until you can. What bank does that?
Right.
They look at your whole business plan and give you a creative approach to underwriting. What bank does that? But they're going to give you this access to credit between $5,000 and $50,000 at very low interest rates under new terms because you went through the 1MBB program at Operation Hope, creating a ladder from human capital to financial capital, and it's because of him.
Hey, he summed it up.
But it goes beyond that, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
You and I, when we sat down in your office, and you're, I was very honored. You took a meeting with us right when you became mayor. You had a lot of things going on. You didn't have to do it because you had a vision that I didn't understand that you understood. You start talking to me. Typically, when I sit down and I start talking about credit scores, public policymakers, their eyes glaze. They're like, what is this guy talking about?
Right.
So I started talking to the mayor about credit scores, and he takes off on this riff like he was rapping, talking about 700 credit score communities.
Well, you know where I got that from, because I read your book.
Okay.
I read your book before I was mayor. I read your book way back, 7, 8 years ago, and we talked about too many 500 credit score neighborhoods. And when you're in a 500 credit score neighborhood, all you got is payday cash loan lending places, which charge you exorbitant amount of interest rates that you can never get out of debt.
Right.
And then you got liquor stores and you got all these other things that basically are substitutes for true improvement in your life. They're just, placating you.
Right.
And what happens is people end up having more month than money. And when you have more month than money, then things start to unravel. You end up having too much more month than money. You might end up living on the street. You might end up living in your car. And then when they repo that and they repo that, next thing you know, you're living on the streets of Atlanta. Or you make other bad decisions like going to that liquor store too often or something else. So, all these things.
Or robbing a car.
Or robbing.
Let's be real talk about it.
Yeah, crime and other things, abusive spouses. When you end up having too much, people, high interest rates on these credits because because you got a low credit score, then you have bad outcomes typically. So that's why your goal of getting people to a 720 credit score or above, it made sense to me 8 years ago. I didn't even have to have this new job. Now I got a new job. I can talk about it all day long.
And little known fact, before he was mayor, he was also a tech leader. Yes. And he was an advocate for a nonprofit that was a minority-led nonprofit in Atlanta, and we wanted to create an app for Operation Hope, Hope in Hand.
Hope in Hand.
So we went to him for guidance, and he guided us. This was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And the app that you see online that you all download from the iOS store or for your Android phone, the Hope in Hand app, which has been downloaded, hundreds of thousands of times now, that app was created by him.
Yeah. Partnerships. TechBridge and Operation Hope work together because we believe in a shared mission and ladders to success. So what we do at TechBridge is we train low-income individuals that may have no income or low income on how to code, on how to do software development and be able to have a great career at it so they can work for folks like you or work for any of these great corporations or work for themselves.
That's right.
And so we train them to do that. And so that's where, and guess what we also train them? Financial literacy. Last thing you see happen is someone go from making $10,000 a year to $60,000 a year, and the first thing they do is buy a BMW with 28% interest, right? And then you wondering how you working, and you got a middle income wage, but you still broke.
That's right.
Right? So we teach them financial literacy based on your principles.
My mother said my mother's sitting right there. My mother said, Mr. Mayor, the only BMW she wants is a black man working.
Here I am. Black with a job. And a man. Let's get back to what.
She might be a little old for you. But she's stable. Her credit score is 857.
All right, hey.
My mother's not black, she's green. So where were we going? So
I messed us all the way up.
No, all good. That's what I said. You're normal. I didn't want to be headquartered in Atlanta and doing work all around. I thank you so much, man. I didn't want to be all around the country and around the world, be a stranger in my own city. I wanted to root this work in Atlanta and have the city of Atlanta as a model city for financial literacy for all, a model city for black entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
The third reconstruction I call opportunity. First one was freedom after the Civil War. Second one, access. We know civil rights leaders that made all of our lives. Third one, civil rights, opportunity for all, that I see you leading in a holistic basis. You taking the water boys and not just looked at the aggressiveness that I have witnessed also. I've talked to them, bought some of their stuff, and hey, you guys tone this stuff down. Nobody likes aggression. That's not going to work. You can't force me to buy your product, man.
Right.
So, but to take that heart, though, and that hustle and turn it into entrepreneurship, because underneath that is the core talent. You've now taken that and a lot of young energy, and Dr. Herring at Atlanta Public Schools trying to embed that in APS in a curriculum around financial literacy and uplift that ties into these youth kindergarten savings accounts. I know I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We got some other stuff we're going to talk about in 2023 that's going to be more holistic. But talk a little bit about how that is part of your vision, where that come from, I guess, is how you grew up in Atlanta and what you saw.
Yeah.
But this 700 credit score piece and the fact that all of our problems are really in 500 credit score neighborhoods and how that transforms when you can just pop that credit score 100 points.
Yeah. Well, what you just said is dynamic. People want freedom, they want access, and they want opportunity. If you drive towards that, whether that's using a Maslow's hierarchy of need chart or whether you're just talking about the general things that your Bible tells you, people want that self-agency and that freedom, but they also see now in a connected world, we see that somebody else has something that we don't have, so you want access to it, right? You want that opportunity now. You don't just live in this bubble of this one village. Now you live in a global village because you can see all these things in a 24-hour news cycle, cable TV, and a platform. So these young men and women that are out there trying to sell water on the corner, you know, most of my job as mayor is managing competing interests. Our competing interests. Somebody says, get them off the corner. I also say I want to put them in somewhere that they can thrive and have freedom, access, and opportunity. And so the competing interests and how to manage that delicately is how you provide carrots and sticks. And that's for everybody. So the carrots are, here's a youth employment program where I set the goal of hiring 3,000 youth for the summer. We hit 3,007 kids being paid an average of $16 an hour this summer.
Young kids.
Young kids.
Absolutely.
Between the ages of 14 and 24. So you should have seen a reduction this summer of kids selling water out on the street because they were all working. And a summer entrepreneurship program and some other things. And so we had the carrots so that I could come with the correction if I needed to. I can't just go out there and correct folks and send them have nowhere to send them.
That's right.
So that's why when we do these things, we say, all right, what's the best outcome for everyone? Train them on entrepreneurship, financial literacy, etc. And now they have a vision for the future and they see themselves going farther. And that's the same thing for our business community. Too many of our businesses, particularly as we talk about African American businesses, they're solopreneurs. We really don't have a lot of businesses that have a lot of employees, and therefore we have a revenue gap, a deficit in that regard.
Wealth creation gap.
A wealth creation gap. And so, the ability to have longevity and multi-generational businesses. So what we have to do is give them these opportunities through Invest Atlanta to be able to give them technical assistance, the training, the know-how, so that they can set their businesses up, so that they can succeed in the future, and then they get that freedom that they want, that self-agency and that opportunity. So all that you're talking about is on a bedrock of this city. Dr. King's vision of the beloved community included our financial inclusion and economic inclusion and our economic prosperity. He was not just talking about voting. He was not just talking about and having fairness on the bus, etc. All of that was also, he wanted the inclusion of everyone, of all of the diaspora, to have financial freedom. And so what we're doing now, as you said, you've moved from civil rights to civil rights. This is important, and I think it's our time right now to be able to help continue to launch that.
Let me say something also. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me say something. He's mayor now. There's certain things that this doesn't sound right coming out of his mouth. Let me say it. There's a lot of work. I'm tired of people trying to pigeonhole him because he's a young black man who has I guess there's a certain vision of what a Democrat is. I don't know. Nobody knows what my political, you can say, you think you can guess what my politics are. You'd be wrong. You don't know where I'm at because I never said it. But he has had to say, I'm a Democrat, I ran for office, he's a black man. He would say, well, now, because of that, you're against crime, or whatever kind of crazy thing that they have to say. Let me say this. I know he believes this, but he can't say this. Let me say this. There's a lot of love in the word no. I love you, but you need to get a job.
Yeah.
I love you, but if you don't do the crime, you dang well gonna do the time.
Yeah.
I love you, but you cannot have this kid and not take care of them.
Right.
I love you, but you cannot take care of drain on community resources and not be a community asset. I love you, but you cannot be blaming all of your problems on somebody else. We're not gonna tolerate it anymore.
Right.
So he has got to, yes, lean into the opportunity because, look, to blame crime on the mayor in 2022 when you had a pandemic that was the worst since the Spanish flu of 125 years ago, where kids were forced to sit at home for a year or two with nothing to do, and they returned to no job and no opportunity, it's going to be off the chain bad for a little while.
Yeah.
While they try to get the kids back in school, back into a structure, back into a program. We're already dealing with single-parent households in many of these homes. Real talk. 70% of black households are run by a woman who's working 2 jobs. So real talk, he needs support and not criticism.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah.
To suggest that we're not one Atlanta and we're not upset every time a car gets broken into, every time a house gets robbed, every time somebody gets carjacked. I mean, my family, my wife was pumping her gas, not in the city of Atlanta, and she says, wow, my car just drove off by itself.
Wow.
Real talk. It happened to her 3 years ago, 4 years ago. No one's immune to this.
No. So, but you said something, though. We talk a lot about love. You know, love ought to look like something.
Woo!
Right? Love ought to look like it. You ought to be able to, don't tell me you love me and I have no evidence that you love me. And so love also looks like correction.
Whoa.
And so correction is a part of love. Being able to say no, being able to say, this is right and this is wrong. I love you when you're right. I love you when you're wrong, but I'd like for you to correct that behavior. So that's certain things that we're dealing with right now where people haven't corrected their children to the point that now the government got to correct them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to parent shame. It's a societal problem, but we have to, Karen, see, Karen, you
No, keep talking, keep
going. You got 2 preachers up here. You're going to end up having a sermon. So, but you definitely are bowling down the right lane because we have created so many opportunities for you. I mean, I'm going to love on this community. Me and my administration, we're going to show you what love looks like, and we do that every single day. But when you don't love the community back and yet you want to harm the community, we got to take you out of this space and get you the correction you need. And so, folks, while we are, yes, I'm a Democrat, and sometimes people think that we are lax. I mean, I tell anybody, you trying to get elected and you haven't said the word public safety. You haven't thought about victims. So that's what we do. We don't think about the victims, the people whose house got broken into, the person who has lost a loved one because of a criminal. No, I think about everybody, the whole community. I'm thinking about the victim, and I'm thinking about those individuals that have created havoc in our community. And I love all of them, but I'm going to love you in correction. You got to get corrected.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it. And so that's why when we're talking about financial literacy, I want you to have a great job, a great career.
Or start a business.
Or start a business.
You got natural
we
hustle.
are taking people off the street that were Lyft drivers or anything else, and we're taking you through CDL training, taking you to get nursing, taking you to get technology training. I created a labor department in the city. We got the federal labor department and the state labor department. I said, we know this city better than anybody. We got to create a city department of labor so that you can be put to work, and then you can become an entrepreneur as well. I'm saying all this because this global forum, there's some mayor right now in some city as we go to the U.S. Conference of Mayors and all these things, and they're like, I don't know what to do with this issue, and I don't know what to do with that one. And a lot of it has to do with having great partnerships like we have here in Atlanta with Operation Hope, with our Atlanta public school system, and this mayor's office. We're going to figure all these things out around our youth, and that's why I'm making investments in early childhood education, $20 million, the largest money that we've ever put towards it.
There you go.
Because infancy matters. Between the ages of 0 and 3, infancy matters because when they reach pre-K and they are already so far behind, they got too much catch up to do, and we're going to help them get caught up from the very beginning.
And look, folks are going to be, yes, give them applause. Look, folks are going to be watching these videos for weeks and years. This is going to go down in history. And people are going to watch Where Was the Applause and When Was It Silent? You're going to have millions of people watching this all around the world. I hope Vince Williams, our friend, mayor of Union City, who's in charge of the National League of Cities, watches this. He's a great guy. Yeah. And this is a model city. Yeah. And this is a model mayor. And we should give him a model response for leadership. And that's why I'm giving you our 30-year Legacy of Leadership Award. Go in your office.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, man. This is beautiful.
Look at this.
Oh, wow. Thank y'all. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Love you, man.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys. I wanted to figure out how I could have a bigger impact in my own world and in my life. And I didn't know what that was, but I asked God for some deeper meaning. I didn't know that Operation Hope was it.
I answered an ad in the paper so innocently, just trying to make my way through a master's degree program for a receptionist at an organization called Operation Hope. And it wasn't too long into my tenure that I realized that I was following someone who truly had a vision that would impact millions of people.
I've been holding my breath for 29 years for Operation Hope to be relevant.
John Hope Bryant is my best friend, and we've been best friends for over 30 years. And we were both deeply affected by the civil unrest that came about as a result of the Rodney King verdict in 1992. And we both felt saddened by the loss of life, the loss of property, and we both wanted very much to do something about it. And to John's credit, he didn't just talk about it, he did it. And I endorsed it every step of the way. The vision that he shared, I concurred with, and he's been an excellent chairman, founder, CEO of Operation Hope, and he's more of a brother than just a friend.
And I met John and heard him speak for the first time, and I knew that everything that he said was something that I believed in, that I wanted to drive forward with him. And it has been the most incredible journey. We have been all over the planet together, working to change the next generation of young people. John Hope Bryant is much more than my boss. He has been there for me every step of the way, through the good times, through the happy times, through the sad times. We are connected at the soul, and I just am, as each day goes by, is more and more and more. I feel absolutely blessed. I love you, John Bryant.
Chairman Bryant is an exemplary man, is an exemplary black man. He teaches me so much. He shows me how to be what I want to be in life. And it's a great privilege and an honor to stand so close to somebody so great.
My brother John, who I've met when he was 16 years old, I was 20, back in 1982. So the friendship was established then. And so when he came up with the vision of Operation Hope and gave me an opportunity to come on board, I knew that leaving corporate America to the nonprofit was the best decision I've ever made, because I knew that I was going to be with my brother again doing the Lord's work. You know, my friendship with John goes a long way. I've had so much love for him from day one, complete trust, and I'm just so happy to be on this journey of 30 years with him.
I fell in love with Operation Hope because I love my sister, and my sister loves Operation Hope. When you align with something, it's a force that you can't disconnect from. You just become Operation Hope.
To work with John, to learn and be inspired, and to watch his passion and be able to participate and lean into that magic has been a gift of a lifetime. So it's been an honor and a thrill to have been a part of this ride.
I'm proud and honored to be a witness and a participant in giving back to this world through the Hope movement. We're operating Hope every day.
He is an amazing mentor. He's an amazing visionary thought leader. He has high expectations. He's there to walk with you when you succeed. And he just is an amazing leader, and he's just an amazing friend more than anything.
I joined Operation Hope 4 years ago, and honestly, before Hope, I had never believed that it was possible to love a job. I had jobs I've tolerated, but to find something that you love, where you're able to do what you like doing all day, that's where you can be for a very long time and remain satisfied and remain passionate.
He and I, like I said, have been together for 11 years. We've been through the leanest of times. We've been through the greatest of times. I personally like to take the chairman and thank the chairman who's been involved in my life as much as I've been involved in his. I am lucky and fortunate enough to work with a guy that shows you love, loyalty, and protection. And most of all, shows you a great deal of respect. That's all I've asked for. That's all I've gotten from him. That's all he's gotten from me in return.
I started as an intern in 2018. I think John has really taught me the power of relationship capital 1 and how far that goes. I'm so thankful for the work I'm doing and for the work John's doing. And I love working here. I love working for Operation Hope.
What inspires me about Operation Hope is I'm a doer personally, and I'm just inspired to be a part of an organization that does.
That's right. That's right. So being an employee here at Operation Hope has been so inspiring. Growing up as a black woman in a predominantly white community, I didn't really have a positive black experience. I didn't have black people around me fighting for me or my position. And so to come to a place to see that this is a place fighting for our people, doing the work of our people, has been such an inspiration.
I'm new to Hope, and I joined the team because of the servant leadership that we saw at following John Hope Bryant. One thing that I think about when I think about John Hope Bryant, I think about servant leadership. Someone who's taking his voice, his power, his money, and pouring it into communities, lifting up voices.
Just the mission, the vision of the visionary John Hope Bryant has inspired me. I really consider this a calling and not a job.
When you say John Hope Bryant, you say hope. You say change. You say dreams come true. You say innovator. You say support. Everything that he stands for, he's poured into this organization. And he allows me to be able to give back to the community, to people who want to dream but don't know how to dream. What would I say about John Hope Bryant? Kudos to you for living your dream and allowing us to live ours.
The man who has done it. He has done it. Outdone himself for 2022. Has this not been an amazing global summit? And guess what? It's not over. We're going to wrap the 2022 Hope Global Forums with a powerhouse closing session. They were back there taking photos, and when I tell you this picture had everybody in it, it was amazing. Some of the biggest names on this planet today. So are you ready? All right, I know you want to get that blood circulating in your feet, so go on and stand up as I introduce your panel. We begin with Atlanta's own Tip T.I. Harris. Atlanta's own Killer Mike Render. Of course, the man with the plan, Mr. John Hope Bryant. Ambassador Andrew Young.
Here we go.
Mr. Tony Wrestler. Come on out. And the one and only Charlemagne the God.
ATL, what's happening? Oh man, it's a pleasure to be here today with all of these players and, great individuals on this stage. Oh, don't act like Mr. Young not a player. Come on now. All right? OG right there. But we're here to talk about a lot of different things, man. I'm going to start it off. Black workers earn 30% less than white workers. Closing that gap would put 2 million black individuals into the middle class. How do we even begin to change this?
No, hold on. Slow down.
What you want me to do, John?
No, Charlemagne just come here and just chill. First of all, I want the jacket. First of all.
You can have it.
The jacket. It's 88 degrees in here. My man got this jacket on. But he looks good. Let me tell you what. First of all, Charlemagne is more than a prophet. He's more than a radio host. He's more than a talent. This man is really, really smart. He's conscious. He cares. He's a husband. He's a community leader. He is the truth. And when we called him and said we need for a unique type of person to corral all these personalities, we couldn't think of anybody in the whole country who had the sort of gravitas to go from the streets to the suites, from civil rights to civil rights, to be high frequency and down with the people. Please just stop for a minute and say thank you. No fee, no compensation, came out on his own, Charlemagne.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
And as you can see, it's an all-black panel.
We can start now? Yeah. All right. So the question was, black workers earn 30% less than white workers. Closing that gap would put 2 million black individuals into the middle class. How do we even begin to change this? Who wants to start?
What's that?
Go. Don't be shy now.
I believe it starts with entrepreneurship. I think we have to close that gap on our own. We can't continue to look for corporations and for the government to kind of supply us with our necessities. We got to keep doing what we've been doing. I think $1.3 trillion is what black people spend in America. So somewhere in there, you know what I'm saying, if we can pool those resources together and we can direct those funds to where we need it, that 30% can get knocked out immediately.
Mr. Renda?
Yep.
This is my actual business partner, one of my best friends. Actually, a few people here have been very dynamic in my life. The whole panel I have genuine friendships with. And me and my friend in starting a business, and we make a lot of money. We sing and dance. But you don't, or it's not wise to then use your own money to build your business. You're looking for capital. You're looking for partnerships. You're looking for joint ventures of sorts. That's what my black friend right here tells me all the time about using your own money. And he really talks like a gangster movie. Like when you talk to Mr. Rexler, he's like, Mike, what the fuck are you doing?
That's a fact.
You guys shouldn't use your own money.
That's a fact.
You guys should be finding money. There's money out there. People want to partner with you.
Tony don't play.
Yeah. So I'm learning more. And I think, like Dr. King was saying in his last 2 years of life, and I got a fact checker here if I'm wrong, but he talked about, the government subsidized, like they had done for other immigrant groups that moved in here. So I think there's a role in government and private partnerships because the administrations that I grew up under, Andy Young's administrations, Maynard's administrations, did a great job of getting public and the private sector to partner together. And as I talk to John Hope Bryant, as I talk to Tony Rexler, I'm realizing that Atlanta has a very unique way in doing that works very effectively at not only making sure that business owners have an opportunity to run their business, that they get strong partnerships between the two. And I think that the way Atlanta's small business and medium business community is growing, we could stand to do well with those partnerships. I think if you look at a Pinky and Slutty Vegan, I think if you look at a Big Dave's Cheesesteak, what they've been able to do, I think if you look at John Hope Bryant and what he was able to do with rental properties, I think that a lot of times we have amazing ideas. And once corporate citizens desire to truly be good corporate citizens, understand that goes beyond just philanthropy in terms of giving to 501c3s, but actually helping neighborhoods grow entrepreneurship, we need a lemonade stand mentality. And I think that we have it. And I think that now corporations are starting to understand that and pivot into us. And I think that the more that happens, the more that those partnerships happen, I think that the more growth happens. And like along with what Tip said, using that spending dollar to circulate in our communities more, I think that our community becomes a stronger one.
Absolutely. I got to go to Mr. Young, too, on this question. How do we begin to close that wage gap, Mr. Young?
I didn't hear the question, really.
How do we close the wage gap?
Well, first of all, we got to realize that, when I started here, came to this city, it was less about 500,000 people. And we're about 7 million now. Think of that as a market. That market is growing so fast that it's simply a matter of identifying it and serving it. We were sitting next to John's father-in-law, and he developed hundreds of drugstores throughout the Baltimore, Delaware, and Pennsylvania area. And he was in a minority in small communities, mostly white. And I said,
we need a drugstore near your apartments. And he said, that's easy. So I think the first thing we do is follow up on immediate need. If we can find a drugstore and start working on that right now on Bankhead, there's not a drugstore. I drive down that way. I mean, I live down that way. I don't think we have a drugstore on Bankhead anymore.
Nope. Or a supermarket.
Or a supermarket. Well, we can start right there. Not philosophizing about the ideas and things.
Do something.
These are hungry people. These are needy people. And when you open it up, and the only reason people are hanging out with nothing to do is that we haven't really involved them in our society. But at one point, we had a society that was working. We got kids. You guys were in school. In fact, Mike was the mayor's. What did you call yourselves?
Kids for a Change.
Huh?
Kids for a Change, the Atlanta Fulton Commission on Children and Youth, and Kids for a Change.
Atlanta Commission on Children and Youth, and he was 15, and he was the chairman.
Wow.
Wow. Been doing the work.
And I was the mayor, and he came and told me that he needed to have a conference. And he didn't want any adults in it telling them what to do. And so we had a conference, and I think I scraped up about $500.
Yeah, $500.
But we also got the World Congress Center. And he had about 5,000 students in there on a Saturday. And we had adults sitting in listening, but we listened to the youth as to what they said. And the end result that I remember was they weren't all that just concerned about themselves. There was one kid who had just gotten out of jail, and he was leading a discussion. So I said, I better check him out. I was so moved, I almost cried. I did cry. Because he said, when I was in jail, I saw people starving in Ethiopia. And I said, when I get out of jail, here I am in jail, I'm eating, I got a place to stay. And I looked at my people out there on the desert in Ethiopia with nothing to eat. He said, I want to do something about Ethiopia. And so one of the things that came out of that conference was a fundraising drive that raised over $100,000 in about 10 days. And they sent it they researched what was going on in Ethiopia, found out that the best people who had the most people on the ground were UNICEF. And so they sent a check to UNICEF. But they raised the money where the money is. And nobody told them. They went to the banks and put canisters on the counter for people who come into the banks and cash a check to put something in for Ethiopia. But I'm saying, nobody told them what to do. And they also had a parade, marching on a Saturday, marching down Peachtree to end the Ethiopian famine. Now, that's where he got his entrepreneurship from. No bullshit.
Told y'all he was a player.
If there's people hungry, you got to feed them, not complain about them. That's right. And if we take that same philosophy, okay, we got no drugstore on Bankhead, we're going to have a drugstore on Bankhead. I don't know how long it'll take, but you asked John's,
Now, while we're talking about it, so I have a mixed-use development that is upon completion. We have about 75 square feet of retail for a supermarket as well as a drugstore to be tenants in that development available right now. And I've been meeting with supermarkets, meeting with drugstores. However, no one has a desire to be in that particular area.
Well, hold up. You got
that's the problem.
You got a sister that finished Spelman a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
That's the CEO of Walgreens.
Okay. I should be introduced to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what this kind of event is for. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll take care of that for you,
She
too.
finished Spelman, and then she went to work for Kimberly-Clark, and then she went to work for Walmart, and then she worked for
Walgreens.
Starbucks.
Okay.
And now she's with Walgreens.
Tip, basically, you on the right panel, sir. You around all the right people.
Hey, man, I think we got it done. Hold up now, Charlamagne. So, why don't you just put me on a group text with this sister and we'll... You know what I'm saying?
Also,
I got to ask some more questions,
she's
man.
married, but she's smart and she's fine.
Hey, whoa, we married, Mr. Young. Come on now.
Wait a minute.
We married men up here, Mr. Young.
Be the baddest brothers in the block and you don't know her? Come on, man, get it together.
It's gone off the chain.
Hey, Tip, you got to bring him to the Trap City Cafe later. Y'all have that conversation. Yeah.
Hey, come on, hey, listen, man, I got somewhere for you, man. We can finish this discussion and you got a bunch of waitresses to watch.
Okay. All right.
All right, let's ask some more questions, man. 96% of all black-owned businesses are sole proprietorships. That figure is only 80% for everybody else, but bringing parity, black-owned businesses would generate $1.6 trillion more than they do today. Why are blacks struggling to get past the startup stage, John?
Yeah, so one of the reasons that I wanted Bishop T.D. Jakes, and I'm going to say now Mr. Jakes, because of his enterprises, to sit right in front of us so we could see an example. He's right here. Stand up, please, Mr. Jakes. So we get to see an example of somebody who's employing hundreds, who has audited financials, who has, runs a straight-up development business that's over here, and then a straight-up record label and a straight-up online digital enterprise. These are all separate, proper businesses with accounting standards, infrastructure, administration, reporting out to investors, and then completely separate from that, he has his faith enterprises, which has a completely separate firewall up. Basically, you got to do it the right way. You can't just be focused on busyness. You got to be focused on business. And I wanted him to be there so we had somebody we could actually see and point to as a real role model of somebody who's been able to do it right. By the way, everybody up here paying our taxes. I just noted, we're married. We have, there's children here. There's families. It's cool. It's sexy. But these folks have made smart sexy. We have got to. No one ever. It's not like we're dumb or we're stupid. It's when we don't know that we don't know. Because the Freedmen's Bank was undermined in the 1800s. That was supposed to teach us about how capitalism works. So we're just winging it. And we confuse making money with building wealth. You make money during the day, you build wealth in your sleep.
That's right. That's right.
We got to stop talking about, I want to make this money, I want to get this dollar, I want to get paid. That is far overrated. Because money has frequency. It's going to come and go. You know what sexy is? It's building wealth in your sleep.
Right.
That's sexy.
That's right.
That's what he's doing.
I was going to say that.
Building wealth in his sleep.
I was going to say that. Speaking of building wealth in your sleep, you have Tony on the panel. Tell him why you have our light-skinned brother Tony on the panel.
I just real talk. I got a man crush on Tony. I think all of us here, we love this dude, don't we?
I do.
I mean, this dude is the truth. I mean, first of all, he don't mess around. He don't mince words. I can't use the same words the killer used. But what he said to him, he basically said to me, Tony loves you enough to curse you out.
Yeah.
Tony don't have a lot of time. Tony's like, if there's an end to this story, can we please start there? He's like, I got stuff to do. So tell him what civil rights is. For you, definition of civil rights in the 21st century.
No, listen, I appreciate being here and all, but please understand, my argument is that when you look at who's here, I mean, Charlamagne, T.I., Mike, Andrew Young, John, the influence you guys have, and I just think you should be so much more aggressive. I'm going to use a quote, and I am, Bishop Jakes, if you don't mind, you mentioned inspiration versus transformation. Now, I'm just going to use an NBA story, but I don't mean, I might use some bad words, but...
That's fine.
It's okay.
But think about it. Think about it. People spend so much time trying to figure out often the debate on whether there should be more African-American basketball coaches in the NBA. There's 30 damn teams. And by the way, the more African-American coaches, the better. But with the influence of the NBA, the influence on this stage, the focus shouldn't be on whether we have 12 or 16 or 18 African-American coaches. That's inspiration. Transformation is why isn't 13, 14% of the financial sector with 10 million jobs African American?
That's right. That's right.
The technology, I mean, all I'm saying, now, again, I don't want to act like some know-it-all, but...
You're a billionaire, say what you want.
No.
Shit.
I'm not apologizing, man. But I will say, if you think about it, you know, businesses are not going to turn on a dime. And telling the private sector how to become more diverse does not happen overnight. But insisting that every company have a 10-year plan to become more diverse. And yeah, Mike and I, we go at it because the idea of building businesses that just cater to the African-American community, I'm like, Mike, that's bullshit. You should have much bigger businesses because there's 100% of the population that should be your customer.
That's right.
You know, but again, think about it. We have 450 NBA players. 80% are African-American. Median income, $8, $9, $10 million. That's fantastic. Think of the power and the influence to transform corporate America with that and this type of stage. And I think you got to reach higher. That's all I'm saying.
Let me tell you what's sexy is, Charlamagne. This dude pays $10 million salaries with his petty cash.
No, now we're getting into bullshit here. Come on. Come on.
Now we get into
Let's take a
bullshit.
step back, man. Hey.
We wrapping
Come on,
up.
man. I grew up dreaming about those sneakers. I never had leather sneakers in my whole life. Until I got to be 24 years old, I never had a pair of leather. So, come on. But
tell us what civil rights is today. Come on, what did you tell me?
Well, listen, having an even playing field with financial literacy, access to capital, mentorship. All right? When we change that, when we make that all more available, which is the private sector and the public sector. You know, we keep talking about whether it should be the public sector or the private sector. You know, at a certain point, you get to a certain age, you got to look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm part of the solution or I'm part of the problem.
That's right.
Well, with that said, you know, black entrepreneurs pay more for capital and they face a more difficult approval process. Do we need to start developing our own financial systems or better master the existing ones?
Both?
I just, as one of the co-founders of Greenwood, I didn't know much about money getting into it. And I remember when Andy hit me and he says, we have banking deserts. And I remember Chase Bank having pulled out of the West Side. They pulled two. It was one in the West End, there was one on Martin Luther King. And they pulled out of that. And when they did that, I remember an old lady telling me that she would have to now drive all the way up to 10th Street just to get to, or ride the bus actually. And I thought how unfair that was. So even though Green was just a banking platform, it helped me understand how important not only black banks, but banks were, period, to the banking community. Now, if you guys don't know about Greenwood, please Google it. It's an amazing bank, just raised $45 million. It's a banking platform. I think it's going to help. But it's not the final spear in the war. What really taught me a valuable lesson in that was when John called me one day and said, look, I know you were with Chase Bank as your large bank. I know you deal with Citizens Trust in terms of you've been with them since a kid. But you need a relationship with regional banks, with people who see you, with people who see you moving. And he had me do a call. When I did the call, well, after he cursed me out about being late, when I did the call, I understood how important that one-on-one relationship was because 8 months later, I had bought a building in East Point. And I remember buying that building, and I remember my bank saying, hey, you got to give us $1 million of your money. We're going to get bonds with it, and then we're going to lend you your money back at a great interest rate. But I say, it's my fucking money. Sorry, Red.
Sorry, Bishop.
I'm like, you're lending me my money. I remember, but I said, it's a first step. It was easy enough. But when I doubled back around to buy the next 2 buildings, to buy the third of the block, I was like, I'm going to take what Tony said. I'm going to take what John Hope Bryant said, and I'm going to leverage this relationship. I called the smaller bank, had a conversation with them. The money came at an even better rate, at an even faster time. I now have a 30,000 square foot space that we're developing down in East Point for something really cool. But I only knew that because I was mentored in that. I only knew that because someone asked me, what the fuck is wrong with you? So I had to start looking at things differently. And I am lucky in that I learned this lesson. Now imagine if, like Tony's passion is, if we're teaching this lesson K through 12. Imagine if, like John taught me, we're teaching our kids early how to develop relationships with smaller local and regional banks. And I think on the other side of that, the more education we pour into the younger kids in the process, the more younger entrepreneurs that get this education, I think the better. So it's not an impossibility. And it's something that can be leveraged, but it only happens when we plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. And I say that because when I say that, people tend to think I'm talking about some type of social thing. And no, my grandmother said the Collier Heights, the community I grew up in, if you're from Atlanta, was developed by black people in the 40s for black people. My grandmother said when you would get on your plot, the bank would be there, the real estate agent would be there, and the closing attorney would be there because they had already plotted out how to get people to the table. And I think that if we think organizationally that way about money, that we begin to create an effective prototype in Atlanta that can spread to Jacksonville, Birmingham, Memphis, Tampa, Charlotte, and the tip of the spear can be black people.
That's right.
That's it.
Now,
for sure.
Mike and I share experience. We are partners in a business called Bankhead Seafood.
Yep.
Okay, and we bought the business and the building and found out that we had to do renovations to the building in order to reopen the business.
Yep.
And in order to do that, we had an architect to come in and show us where all our structures needed to be reinforced and so on and so forth. Long story short, $2.1 million construction, right? And so we had to go out and we had to find funding for that. And when we went out to find funding, do you know that all of the banks that we bank at, I have millions of dollars in Chase Bank right now. You know what I'm saying? I go to Chase, they slam the door in my face like I'm nobody. You know what I'm saying? Mike has millions of dollars in his bank. They slammed the door in our face. Do you know how we got our loan?
Oh.
By leveraging my fully owned studio, him leveraging his fully owned real estate, his buildings, as collateral, and then we got someone to say, okay, well, if you leverage a building that you own free and clear, we will give you the money you need to build this building. And that is why it costs more black people, black entrepreneurs, more money.
Yeah.
That process is why.
Yeah.
I called John. I say, John, we need help. John said, I'm going to see exactly what I'm going to see what I can do. I see what I can do. Probably about 2 weeks, he called back, hey, man, ain't shit I can do. Because it's the system. It isn't the people. It is the system, even if the people wanted to help us. The system will not allow them to do so.
I want Tony to speak to that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
I just want to say what Mike said earlier and what T.I. just reaffirmed, the answer you just gave, which is you're supposed to go where the money is. And sometimes that money's not available. I get it. So, for instance, a Greenwood, which is a great online bank catering to the African-American community, great. I happen to be an investor, by the way. All right. I also believe we took a group of black banks that refinanced our practice facility. All right. Largest financing that they've done in the last 24 months. For whatever it's worth, good business. But also, if J.P. Morgan or Truist or Wells is being incented by the government to lend to minority communities to help young entrepreneurs, that's good too. And the goal is to use your voice, frankly, for me to use mine, to make sure financial institutions are helping make the playing field even. And that doesn't just happen. It happens with a push.
That's right.
And you guys could give the push. Frankly, all of us could. Everyone in this room could give the push. Because it's good business. It's actually good business.
Let me say that I see our time is sort of running out, but if we do one thing out of this conference, and that is see everything we've been talking about as an opportunity rather than a problem.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And if it was easy to do, everybody would have done it.
Yes, sir.
And you all were smart enough to come here, and you learned a lot here. I've been listening in the back. This has been a very good conference. But who was it that used to talk about an attitude adjustment?
An attitude adjustment?
An attitude adjustment. That was a rap song, a rock blues song, somewhere back in my day. I'm older than y'all, so I remember way back.
You seasoned, Mr. Young. You're not old, you seasoned.
Okay, but we need to adjust our attitude toward our situation.
Absolutely. That's right.
Yeah. We're in the best place in the whole planet, right here in this room.
Yes, sir.
This wasn't here when I moved to Atlanta. Martin Luther King had his last board meeting in this hotel before he left for Memphis.
Wow.
And we're here now. It's almost 60 years later. Things have changed. They've changed everywhere. But I see everybody that used to be out in my neighborhood, I forgot even the name of the mall.
Greenbrier.
Greenbrier
Mall.
is now out. I mean, I went to Lenox Square, hadn't been in a long time, and I thought it was a new black mall. And they were coming out with big bags of stuff. You know, I mean, there's money here, and you have access to it. And what this conference was about was that we adjust our attitudes so that instead of complaining about where we are, we decide we're going to get together, or if we not get together, we're going to do it on our own. We're going to find some way to do one thing. Mm-hmm. We're not going to curse the darkness. We're going to light a little candle.
That's right. That's
yeah.
Right.
John?
Well, look, I mean, I've said a couple of things that may not be obvious. I mentioned everybody up here owns a home. 41% of black folks own a home. First thing you need to do, again, what Ambassador said, put your shovel down right where you are. Dr. Dorothy Height once told me, God rest her soul, John, I love you because you're a dreamer with a shovel in your hands. Let's stop looking at these big, amazing, fantastic visions of what, sometimes it starts with just get your money right in your house. Like, if the most expensive assets you have is on your ass, you got a problem.
Oh, shit.
If you live in an apartment building and you got a Range Rover outside, the payment on your Range Rover is more than the payment on your apartment, you got a problem. If you renting and you really should be owning, you got a problem.
That's right.
I mean, the number one way you build wealth in America is home ownership. It's not complicated.
Nope.
So buy a home. Stop all this rhetoric about, oh, I don't own the home, the bank does. If you don't pay, in fact, if I give you a loan and you don't pay me, I'm going to own your home. If Tip gives you a loan for your home and you don't pay, he's going, let's stop all this.
I'm not going to give you no loan, so don't
ain't
call me.
So I think, so number one, let's keep this simple. Like, we need a budget.
That's right.
We need a budget. We need to get our credit straight. Like, our credit's toe up from the flow up. We got to start asking important questions. You can't just have relationships of stuff that makes you smile. Like, yeah, Tip, everything Tip said was right. But what he missed out, what he left out was, Tip, you know your producer, you know your writers, You know people he told me all kind of terms about licensing rights, and because Quincy Jones says if you're in the music business, you don't own publishing rights, licensing rights, you're just a temporary performer. You're not in the music business. Tip schooled me in all this stuff. He knows all this stuff, Tip, who's your banker? I don't know. Who's the CEO of the bank? I don't know. When's the last time you talked to your banker? I can't remember. I'm not talking about the branch manager. I'm talking about at your level, the bank CEO, the CFO, your private banker. I'm saying, so with all due respect, Tip wasn't doing the relationship nurturing work. I mean, they want his autograph, they buy his music, but they're not going to give you a credit decision unless they trust you. And so we got to start building relationships and nurturing those relationships in the banking and finance sector, so that when you put those seeds down, they bear fruit. Not just when you want it.
Everything you're saying is true.
Okay, go ahead. But,
however, I didn't need none of the relationship for them to accept my millions of dollars and play the market with it. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, you're being philosophical, but that's not the way the world works.
I'm just saying.
They're going to do that whether you like it or not. Whether you participate or not, Tony Rester has taught. Every time I think I understand money, I go talk to him, I get a whole nother lesson. Here's what I've learned, Tip. God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth, so I listen twice as much as I talk.
Right.
I go to him and I shut up and listen. I go to him on civil rights, I shut up and I listen. I come to you on creativity and all this stuff, on community, Charlemagne, I shut up and I listen. When I tell you something about money,
shut up and listen. Hey, that's why
I've never seen.
That's why mentorship is so important. That's why mentorship is so important.
Love and respect.
And the beauty about John and Tony and Mr. Young, they're willing to share the information, man, as well as Mike and as well as Tip, man. Thank y'all very much.
Thank everybody.
Y'all have a great day.
Just a minute.
I appreciate it.
Oh, sir.
Hold on.
Go for it, Tip.
No, you can stand still, but we really need to close this meeting with prayer.
Yes, we do.
Well, I'm the preacher. May we pray. Father, you have already blessed us more than we deserve. Just by the fact that you brought us together and you brought all of these resources and laid them at our feet. Open our hearts, our minds, develop our muscles, and most of all, give us faith in you who created us, that we might do your will and not only build houses, but build your kingdom in this community. In the name of our Lord and Savior, and in the name of all of those whom we worship, respect, and gain our inspiration. Amen.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, gentlemen. That is a wrap for the 2022 Global Forum's annual meeting. What 3 days this has been. Thank you all for being a part of this, for watching wherever you are watching, and let's have a prosperous 2023.
Hey, everybody, I'm going to leave you with this. You can listen to this while you're walking out. It's cool. I'm not going to feel disrespected. There's 3 types of people, like 3 types of birds.
Awesome.
Thank you. There are eagles, there are buzzards, and there are turkeys. Eagles don't fly in packs. You've never seen a flock of eagles. Eagles are high-altitude birds like this lady, Karen. Now, you got another kind of bird. You got buzzards. Buzzards love packs. Buzzards are low-altitude birds. Buzzards are always stepping on your head to elevate themselves. Always player-hating, never player-congratulating. Always got something negative to say about somebody. Right now, there's somebody somewhere saying, who's he think he is? What are they doing? More than you, what you doing? But the worst kind of bird is a turkey. Because a turkey's got wings and can't even fly. All they do is profile. Translation, trying to be something they are not. So here's the calling for the 2022 Hope Global Forum, the 30th anniversary of Operation Hope, the dawning of the third Reconstruction, a calling for a civil rights movement. Here is the calling. You tell the world, what kind of bird do you want to be? Say it loud. Say it loud. Let's go fly.